Good morning, Kinder. How are we all feeling today? Good, I hope. As we are launching into another ArchCast, we will be joined by Short Fat Taku eventually, but as he is both short and fat and mentally challenged, he is of course late. I imagine it is because he has difficulty climbing onto his chair, difficulty letting go of his mountain of food, and difficulty remembering what a clock is. There are a multitude of excuses and reasons for this. Pick and choose. We do enjoy bullying Dev, do we not? We've got some spicy topics for Dev today as well, as we are going to talk a bit about Japan and its LGBTQ acceptance row that has been going on recently. We will be talking about the BattleTech drama as well. Though, bear in mind, I'm going to be getting most of my information from that by second- and third-hand sources, because, well, I have no idea there even was a BattleTech fan forum, but I've been given the generalistic lowdown on events over there, so we will be touching upon that as well. And, obviously, we are going to start off with perhaps the single dumbest thing I have seen in quite some time. Honestly, like, genuinely. That is retarded, and then there is this. So, this guy here, Faze Nickmercs, I don't know, something, is apparently, as far as I've been told, a pretty big deal in the Call of Duty community, in that he has been in it for absolutely ever and a day, pretty much. And Call of Duty had set up some sort of a collaboration with him to show him off as an in-game character. So you can see this was the in-game character skin here. So he's got a little bit of a Spartan helmet, etc., with a nice little hairs, oh god, what's it? I've forgotten the word for it. I know the word for it, somewhere in the back of my head, but it won't materialize right now. And this was then cancelled following anti-LGBTQ plus tweet. Aha. Alright, due to recent events, we have removed the Nickmercs operator bundle from the Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone store. We are focused on celebrating Pride with our employees and our community. Bearing in mind, Activision, Call of Duty, Blizzard, all of these, none of them changed their icons this year. In fact, Xbox changed theirs and then changed it back to their old icon. So, this isn't really a very persuasive line of argumentation right here, honestly. In fact, it sounds like what we would like to refer to back in the good old days as blatant bullshit, in fact. And as for the anti-LGBTQ comments... Oh, and there's Dev too. Hello, little Dev. If he's alive. Hello? 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 Dev can't speak. Your icon is lighting up, but I can't hear you. Dev has committed a grave error. Let's see.
I don't know how to fix that.
Just out of curiosity. Okay, try saying something now.
Hello?
Okay, you are on a weird delay, as I see your icon light up and then I hear you, but I can't hear you now.
You can?
Jesus, that is weird. Yeah, I see your icon light up, and a second later, I hear you. And now I didn't hear you at all. Are you messing with your settings? Dev tries very hard. Hold on, chat. We have Canadian difficulties. Listen, you must excuse him. He is Canadian. They're not born like the rest of us. It's quite normal for this to happen. One day he will resurrect. Maybe. Returning to the topic, whilst Dev is still incognito, missing action. Oh. Hello?
How about now?
There we go. I can hear you. And your icon on the right lights up at the right time.
That's good. So what's up, Arch? What's going on?
Well, I started proceedings today with, I'll post it in order in the link channel. This thing here, Call of Duty decided to cancel a collaboration with a community member over an anti-LGBTQ tweet.
I think I've heard something about that.
You might have. You might have. So the guy in question, Faz something something. FaZe Nickmercs. I believe FaZe is the clan name, and then Nickmercs is his thing. Apparently, he's a
Yeah, I've heard
very
of
old
FaZe.
school guy in the Call of Duty community.
Yep.
So the
Now,
official
if
Call
you
of
ha-
Duty statement.
if you remember, Call of Duty was the place, one of the places, the Call of Duty and Halo, those are the places you would go to be edgy back in the 2000s online.
Yes,
Call of
no
Duty
longer.
lobbies, no longer.
Call of Duty's statement was, due to recent events, we have removed the Nickmercs Operator Bundle from the Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone store. We are focused on celebrating Pride with our employees and community. That was the official Call of Duty statement on the matter. Also, do
So
like
what was
that,
the actual tweet? Yeah, what was the tweet that he said that actually got his DLC or whatever it was kicked off?
Well, I mentioned it here in my tweet. You can see it down on the right-hand side. He says, they should leave little children alone. That's the real issue.
Okay, I want to point something out. So, Arch, do you know what Yogscast is?
The name I know, but I have never watched it, nor have I ever heard of anyone who does watch it.
Okay. The Yogscast became active in 2008, 15 years ago. One of the first Minecraft YouTubers, back when that was a new game. And they used that to blow up, and now they're a massive network of channels. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still going, channels that big, millions of subs. Now some of the channels are just dead because that's how it gets when you get to be a content network of that size,
Yep.
You get channels with like 1 million subs or 2 million subs that get the same views that you or I do. So some channels are just not doing very well. But the main section of Yogscast seems to be going okay. The biggest controversy that spilled outside of the Yogscast community into the main area of the internet was accusations.
And then you cut out again. I can't hear you if you're speaking right now. Yes, you are. Your icon is lighting up, and I can't hear you.
Why?
Oh, there we go. We're back.
Okay.
And then you're out again. Okay, what the fuck? Technical difficulties, chat. Still can't hear you. I can see your icon. Let me reset. Try again. Nope.
Hello?
Oh, yeah, no, you're delayed again.
I wonder why. I wonder what's going on.
I don't know. I think it's Discord doing a derp because the lighting up and your icon is clearly not in sync.
Right. Here, let me try just calling you directly and see what happens.
All right. Give it a moment, chat.
How about now, Arch?
I can hear you now.
That's a lot better, isn't it?
Okay, we'll have to do this good old-fashioned old-school things with non-blinky icons because they can't connect right now, apparently.
Rip. Okay, so the story I was getting to, when did I cut out?
Early.
Early? Okay, Yogscast, Minecraft, big network of channels, 15 years.
Yep. Biggest controversy.
Yeah, so the biggest controversy was some kind of child molestation charge, where somebody, because they were 20-something hipsters at the time, and they had an audience of kids. One of them ended up using their influence for some nefarious purposes, and despite that, every single DLC that Yogscast did for various online video games is still up.
It's still up. Yeah, of course it
They're
is.
all still up. So if you molest a child, you're probably okay. But if you say that you shouldn't molest the kids, then you're gonna have your DLC lost.
Yep. Then your ass is grass.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if
Yeah.
I were to steel man this, phased Nickmercs, he says they should leave little children alone. That's the real issue. He's clearly making a point from his point of view of, keep the LGBT shit away from people. They can make their own decisions when they're 18. We shouldn't be indoctrinating them one way or another. That's the leave the little children alone. That's what that means from the conservative point of view. But from the left-wing point of view, that's an accusation that pro LGBT is it's pro pedophile, pro map stuff, and the left doesn't like that.
The thing is, I will immediately counter argue. If you identify with the accusation, maybe you're the one that's being the problem here, because
That's true.
He's not making any comment here on their sexuality. He's simply saying, no, we shouldn't have this stuff in schools. And then the left goes, wait, hold on, that's an anti-LGBTQ statement. Like, okay.
Yeah, that reminds me. There was something that happened recently. It was on the right wing this time, where the left was making fun of Nazis, and then a bunch of random right wingers took offense to it. And it's like, hold on, guys, you guys aren't Nazis, right? Why are you taking offense to this?
Exactly.
No, you see shit like that a lot. Yeah.
Why are you taking this personal?
I would just be like, okay, yeah, make fun of the Nazis. I'm okay with that. You can make fun of all the Nazis you want. Go ahead.
Yep. And of course, the idiotic thing is too, he literally said nothing wrong here. You need to read deep into this to find the anti-LGBTQ.
Yep. Yeah.
And so they pulled his bundle. So in my opinion, that means that Call of Duty has come out as Call of Map. They've come out as pro grooming kids. That is the official Call of Duty stance now.
Don't make me laugh.
Groom children for in-game merchandise.
A groom
If you can provide them with at least one receipt, like a picture of an underage girl or something, they'll give you a rainbow flag. Or a boy. You know?
I need to point something else, okay? Guys, I currently have food poisoning. I bailed on you last week, Arch. I didn't feel like bailing on you again. It would be the wrong thing to do, but I'm not feeling very well. And I've done enough throwing up that all of my chest muscles hurt tremendously whenever I laugh. So this is going to be torture.
That sounds like a terrible fate, though.
Oh my. Okay, so I want to go back if you don't mind. Phase Nickmercs is replying to anti-LGBT protesters attack pro-LGBT demonstrators outside of a Glendale school board meeting.
Yes.
The school board is voting on recognizing June as Pride Month. I assume that's just a regular kind of protest. You have parents who don't want stuff being taught to their kids. You're probably gonna have an Antifa show up on the other side. We've seen these kind of protests before.
Yes. Let us adopt the Steelman position of just saying that it's two involved parties, teachers and or employees and parents on both sides that are just worried for their kids. The most optimistic purview possible.
Yep. I mean, yeah, because if you are the parent of a child that is suffering from persistent, severe gender dysphoria, you probably do want them protected, and some of that protection is going to be them not getting the shit kicked out of them for being a faggot.
Yep.
So yeah, I understand. That is the Steelman position on both sides. Is they both have a vested interest in their kids, and you can good faith both of them.
Yes. But the overarching point here is, of course, voting on recognizing June as Pride Month.
Mm-hmm.
Why should a school recognize any non-official holiday?
Why should anybody? Most holidays are one day.
Yes.
Sometimes if they're really important, you might get a week.
Yeah.
Right? Who the fuck gets a month?
Nobody. It's because it's not a holiday. It is a political statement of power, because it started with a pride parade. It was one day. It's okay,
Yeah,
sure.
one day. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
You have the same right as everybody else to hold your parade and protest and stuff. Go ahead. Then it became a week.
You know what it is? Ramadan is a month. So maybe they're trying to pull they're putting themselves on equal level as the Muslims.
Possibly. I think it is simply just what they can get away with, because it started as a day, then a week, and then a month. And then they were even suggestions they were going to make it like a 3 month celebration and stuff.
I hadn't heard that. Oh my god.
So I do believe it is literally them just saying like, okay, can we get it further? But again,
So-
like this shouldn't be in a school, because a school shouldn't be teaching you any of this stuff. Like, this is political ideology, it's philosophy, etc. This is something that you should develop yourself. The best case scenario is the school teaches you the tools with which to analyze these things, but it shouldn't tell you like, oh, this is good, this is bad.
Yes, absolutely. So you can make an argument for, like, during a sex ed class, a discussion of what being gay or being trans is. That probably makes sense. That has to be age appropriate, right? And it's certainly not. It certainly shouldn't have any political baggage attached. You know,
Yeah.
I was in high school in the 2000s, and I knew what lesbians were. Obviously, right? I knew what lesbians were at that point in my life. I didn't need to be forced fed some sort of political agenda to understand what that meant. You know?
Yes, because that's the thing. That's not what they're teaching in the classes now. Because even when I was in school, again, they taught you like, oh yeah, there's such a thing as homosexuals, like they like men, etc. And it was like one page in the book. It's like, okay, this happens, you know, it's normal. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, right, exactly. In terms of this guy's story, the Nickmercs guy, it seems to be just like a very generic, company goes woke, decides to pull a deal they made with a YouTuber.
Yes.
Very very kind of normal story. Um, do you mind a bit of a side tangent? Because I have something that's kind of related.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so a very similar protest as the one that sparked this story, the one in Glendale, is happening in Ottawa, Canada right now, in my home country. Have you heard about it?
I have not. Do you have a link to it so I can show it up on
I,
screen?
I do. So there's a short video clip from Andy No, and I'll let you read this and see if you think it's too spicy or not.
I mean, like, that shouldn't be spicy. Like, that is literally the definition of the First Amendment, etc., and freedom of speech. Now, granted, Canada, you don't have freedom of speech, but
We do have freedom of speech, but it's not called the First Amendment. It's like the fourth one. It's the fourth one down on the list. But yeah, we have Muslims stomping on the pride flags because Muslim Canadians are very mad at LGBT Canadians for pushing pride stuff in the Ottawa Carleton District School Board. Now, here's what makes the conversation very interesting. Okay, is that this is what they're pushing specifically in Ottawa. Give that caption a read.
see. A showdown is ramping up right now in Ottawa after the school board told all teachers to call all kids by they, them pronouns permanently. Every student is now non-binary, and protesters are getting furious, situation escalating. As they should.
Yeah, so I wonder if I could find the actual email, because that's not quite what they said, but that's like 80% of what they said. Ottawa they them protest. Let's see if I can find the emails. I know I saw Chud Logic talking about them earlier. Maybe he has them. Anyway, the point is that there's an email sent out to all Ottawa Carleton grade school teachers that very heavily suggested that all students should be considered non-binary until the student proactively and directly declares their own gender.
And this is school board, teach all call kids. So how old are these kids, perchance?
Grade school would be between kindergarten and grade 8.
So
Up to about 13 years old.
Yeah, not at the point where they are either legally or frankly mentally capable of making this decision.
Right, exactly. Now, I spent a little bit of time teaching in the Canadian school system. And what I know... Are you surprised, Arch?
I'm horrified.
What I know is that when an email is sent from the district school board to teachers that says, that says something like teachers have the option or can treat all students as non-binary and use they them pronouns. What that actually means in practice is that the school board wants you to do it, and you have the choice not to do it. But if you do so, if you're a supply teacher, you're going to find yourself being put last on the list for subs. If you're a non-tenured teacher, they will quietly find reasons to ask you to resign. So it's
Mhm.
one of those things where it's not a fireable offense, but you will put yourself on the lowest part of the pecking order if you don't comply.
Yes, it's they can't legally get rid of you, but they will make your life a living hell if you don't.
Yeah. Yep. So that's currently happening, and we see that this is probably like Canada's pretty cucked when it comes to a lot of this stuff. This is the first widespread anti-LGBT protest we've had, and you've seen like Canadian Muslims show up, Canadian Christians are like coming out. They're like it's like the Muslims and the Christians are standing in solidarity. There's been like Antifa people show up and like start fights up here. There's been a lot of stuff going on here right now. This is a very quickly developing story.
Yep. I also want to point out that from what I see in the protest here, the pride flag shown is not the, as Sargon would call it, the conservative pride flag. It is the full-on hard left pride flag too, the racial pride flag and everything. So this is... I have a very difficult time believing that this is merely just classical pride, shall we say. This seems very much so like the political pride.
Yes, yes. I think actually it might actually be government policy to fly the progressive pride flag.
Hmm. There
At
you
least
go.
at least in Ontario, because I recently went back to my hometown to visit my parents for a couple days. Me and Naomi drove back, and we're driving through this sleepy town. It's kind of quiet. No one's really around anymore because these small towns are hollowing out everywhere. But we drive by the town hall, and in this tiny town in the middle of the fucking forest, no one for miles around. 3,000 people live in this place. They're flying a progressive pride flag for June at the town hall, and I'm like, how do people here even know what the fuck that is? And that has to be something that's from like the central government here, I think.
Official policy, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Well,
that's
that
what's
is
going on here. That's a side story.
it's relevant because it does show that it is the normal people that are beginning to push back. Like, I know nothing about this Nickmercs guy, and maybe he's a very savvy individual, but I just look at a Call of Duty clan, mouth breathers, surely. But when even they start going like, yeah, no, leave children alone, like, because that's a bit of an in-depth political take in and of itself, isn't it? Like, leave children alone, because the normie take a year or two ago would be, oh, like, it's nothing political, they're just teaching about homosexuality, what's wrong with that? But now people are going like, oh, hold on, they're not just teaching you that gay people exist, are they?
No, no, they're not. They're not. Oh, I found the final piece of the story. Here, let me post it to you. This is from the National Post, so it is one of Canada's right-leaning sites, but they're still pretty accurate in terms of news. So check out that headline.
Rahim Muhammad, unhinged teacher, tells Muslim to support pride or you can't be Canadian. Oh, isn't that rich? Huh? It's like, oh no, everyone can be English, everyone can be Canadian, everyone can be American. Oh, hold on. You have anti-LGBTQ sentiments? Well,
Mm-hmm.
we've got to talk about that
So,
Canadianness of yours now.
so the story goes, there was some. This was a high school, I think this time. I think it was a high school. Um, and they were going to like, take all the kids in the school and go down to the auditorium, and they're going to have some kind of pride event for a couple hours and do their thing. And some of the Muslim students wanted to skip,
Yeah.
and they said, if you skip, you're not Canadian. You have to support pride, or else you're not Canadian. And I remember, now here's the thing: I remember being in high school, and I fucking skipped so much stuff. Like I skipped the Remembrance Day for the ending of World War I. I skipped that shit. I skipped the anti-drug stuff. They have people come in and talk about their experiences on drugs and why you shouldn't do drugs. I skipped that shit. I skipped dances. If I could skip out and go play video games with my friends, I would skip everything. If we had a pride thing when I was younger, I would have skipped that too. Like it doesn't even need to be a political reason as to why they would skip. But so it really because it's just kids skip things. That's how it is. So like it really feels this almost feels 1984ish to use a tired trope. You you have to imbibe in the propaganda, or else you are an enemy.
Yes.
You can't just be neutral about it.
I also, the thing is, I remember when I was in school, we had Christian lifestyle and teachings as a class at school. The Muslim kids were not required to partake in this. Instead, they were given a separate curriculum about the Muslim lifestyle. So it was like, oh, it was very inclusive for the time, but unironically, it was actually good because it's like, okay, I mean, if this is your religion, as you are taught by your parents, etc., well, we are going to teach you about it in an appropriate way. Like, okay, everyone gets to do what they want, but of course, again, choice is not the point. This is why it is you are not a Canadian if you do not partake.
Yeah, exactly. It's so dumb too because there's nothing in the pledge you have to take to immigrate to Canada. There's nothing in it about pride. This is just
I pledge to protect the state of Canada, Canada, and the pride flag.
I mean, this is just like a teacher saying this, so it's obviously just bullshit. But yeah, this is where Canada's going right now. This is why we have the most popular conservative opposition leader in like 15 years.
But this is also
Trudeau's days are
why
numbered.
the pushback is getting so strident. Again, I find it very remarkable that people, just normal people, will say stuff like this. Leave little children alone. A completely non-controversial statement. Then they get struck over it. Like, this is clown world shit right here. And it's going to get... Because Call of Duty is such a normie game. And now the normies are going to see one of their idols, an ancient member of their community, who they had skins for, so he must have been super popular, disappear because he said, leave children alone. Like, even normies will look at that and go, hold on a second now.
Yep.
That is also why they write it like this. Pulls FaZe Clan streamer Nickmercs skin from the Call of Duty following anti-LGBTQ tweet, rather than... And there is no mention of what he said. Like, they avoid that completely. Wow, that's weird.
Yeah. I mean, unless they cut off the second half of the tweet somehow, it seems like the only thing he said was they're going after kids. That's not anti-LGBTQ, because every LGBTQ a person I've met, does not want to actually go after kids.
Yep. And good for him too. He made a stream afterwards, basically saying that he only half-cooked. He's like, if you're offended, then I'm sorry, but I am not going to apologize for what I said because I don't think I said anything wrong, which is correct.
Well, I mean, good on him. He's probably at a point in his career where he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Because FaZe is still a pretty big clan. Like, I'm sure there's still money coming in. He probably has some savings. Like, if his career was absolutely ruined, he'd probably be fine anyway.
Yeah, the thing is, 10 years ago, this would have ruined him. Like, the clan would have kicked him out. He would have been unhireable. All of his business partners would have fucking eaten him, etc.
I don't know. I don't think I agree with that. Maybe 5 years ago, because that's when the left was really ascendant. 10 years ago, they were still on the upswing. They hadn't quite gotten there yet.
Maybe, but like... You remember the guy who got fired for wearing a T-shirt with a sexy lady on it?
Oh yes, that was from NASA, wasn't it?
Yeah, like that was 7 or 8 years ago, or something like that.
Let's see. NASA sexy lady T-shirt.
NASA sexy lady T-shirt.
Yeah, I'm looking it up
right there.
Yep. That also reminds me. Remember the story, "Suck my dick and balls, I'm working at NASA"?
No. Was that a thing?
Oh, I found it. Okay. There was a person, it was some trans furry who got an internship at NASA and then posted on their like private Twitter account. Not private, it was a public account, but like it didn't have their real name on it or anything. And posted woohoo, I got an internship at NASA. This is amazing. And then someone replies and says, don't use bad language. And then this person says, suck my dick and balls, I'm working at NASA. And then this guy is like, yeah, well, I'm one of the heads of NASA. And then our poor furry friend lost her job.
Aw.
Oops. Maybe you shouldn't tell your boss to suck my dick and balls on Twitter. Like,
maybe.
It's one thing to get fired over a dumb tweet, but when you direct it at your boss, It's a completely different situation.
Yes.
Okay, hold on here. When did the shirt happen? Yeah,
Oh,
it was.
yeah.
It was 2014.
Yeah,
It
so
was 2014. Yeah.
almost 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's old. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go through the super chats we've gotten in now, and then we're going to get onto the trigger dev part of the segment.
Oh, which is that? Wait, I know we're arguing in private over Trump. Are you gonna argue in public too?
No, we're going to argue about
Okay.
Japan rejecting gay marriage.
Oh, okay.
Sandoom says, for your bravery for yesterday's stream, thank you for pushing through a game you did not enjoy. Oh, I didn't hate Amnesia the Bunker. Like, it was stressful as shit, but it was a very clearly well-made gameplay experience that I did like, despite being scared shitless half the time.
How was it? I like the original Amnesia. I haven't played the Bunker.
It depends. Like, if you are a fan of horror atmosphere, the Bunker will serve you very well. If you're more of the jump scary type, the Bunker will not serve you very well.
I don't mind atmosphere. I mean, did you play the original Amnesia, The Dark Descent?
No, the Bunker is my first horror game, literally ever.
Oh, really? Okay. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is considered one of the classics of horror. It's very good.
Yes, I've seen it because I love the idea of horror and I love horror stories, but I hate being in the horror story.
Oh wait, so you're one of those guys who like can't play the game because you get all jump scared and your heart rate goes up?
Well, I can't. It's not that I can't play it. I got through the Bunker very easily, actually, without getting too frozen up. But I just don't enjoy the sensation of being scared.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I will say, Outlast, not Outlast 2 or any of the other future Outlast. They're all garbage. So, Outlast 1 was a very good horror game. Like the end kind of falls flat, but like for the most part, it's a very good horror game. Outlast 2 was complete garbage, and the next Outlast is supposed to be some sort of online co-op bullshit, which is it's not even fun anymore. It's not even interesting. But Outlast 1, it's a very good horror game. You should play it.
I'll see if chat is willing to pay for it. I was paid $1,000 to play the Bunker, and
oh, were you? Jesus.
I don't know if it was worth it. No, it was. It's a good game. It is actually a good game. It's just spooky.
I was paid $100 to play Lord of Ring Gollum. It's not worth it.
You sell yourself too cheaply. So John says Uncle Ted just reported to have passed away. Uncle Ted.
Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
Oh, okay.
Industrial society and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. You know, the degrowth guy.
Well, that's tragic. Maybe.
He did kill some people with some bombs.
Oh,
he's not an innocent guy.
Well, condemn that, I suppose, then. Henry Stickman says, hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. Oh, God. That is an excellent quote, isn't it? Because Jesus Christ, it used to be the positive thing, you know, rebel against the established order, don't be a cog, don't be a brick. Now it's like, no. Being a brick is good. Find your place in the wall, child. Christ. We have genuinely devolved as a society. John McCann says, listening to ArchCast while playing Terra Invicta. Truly things have come full circle. It was worth waking up early for such a dulcet tones. Terra Invicta is an excellent video game. You have made a good choice.
I have not even heard of it.
Oh, it's great. It is a fantastic and very deep and complex grand strategy game. I love it. Zontar says, Zigers, referencing the Russians, coping badly with the Ukrainian offensive, that acting like losing 2 leopards is the end of the war, while Russia has no reserves left. Well, part of it is because the leopards were overblown quite a bit. It's like, oh, the leopards, nothing the Russians can do can stop it. They're still just tanks. You can still blow them up. In fact, they're still vulnerable to ATGM missiles and other tank rounds, etc. Especially if, of course, you use them with dick-all knowledge of how to properly use them. Remember, it takes like a year of training to become basic level proficient with operating a modern MBT. Not to mention the training required to use them effectively.
Hmm. How long has it been? It's been about a year, right, since the war started. Maybe more than a year.
Yep. And the forces are at a complete stalemate. It is a good old-fashioned forever war.
Well, I mean, 40 minutes ago, they're saying that a Ukrainian counteroffensive just began. So maybe something's
Yes.
happening.
They've been
Maybe they're
saying that
shaking
the
it up.
last 2 weeks at this point.
Well, here's the thing, though. I have a feeling that things might start changing up in the next couple of months, just because um, all of that training from the West is probably going to start being utilized finally. If it takes a year to learn how to use some of these systems, well, it's been a year. So I think some things might start changing soon.
It depends. The material advantage is definitely switching in Ukraine's favor, even as the manpower advantage continues to pour further and further into Russia's favor. So we're gonna wait and see. I think this shit is just gonna keep grinding for another 3 years, probably, if not more.
Yeah, probably, to be honest.
Snootenhoff says, Arch, did you watch Death Watch? I haven't watched it yet. I did actually download it because I did see your super chat before my Streamlabs crashed. So I'll put myself through that horror. NW Ball says, I feel your pain, Dev. I'm suffering from severe tree allergies at the moment. Chest hurts when I cough.
Oh, that sucks, man. Wait, tree allergies. Do you have like poison oak? Is that what's going on? I mean, maybe actually no, that'd be a toxin. It just allergies then. Okay, spring allergies. Yeah.
Dev
So for me,
is sympathetic.
for me, my birthday was June 8th. Okay, so we had a lovely birthday dinner. We got some shawarma, and then the morning of the 9th, oh my god, I started feeling absolutely awful. I must have gone to the washroom a dozen times yesterday, and it was brutal. And I thought I was over the hump. I was okay. It's food poisoning. It shouldn't last more than a day. Usually, it's okay, right? So then I go to stream this morning because there's some not E3 events happening that I wanted to co-stream today. So I streamed that before this show, and halfway through, I just started feeling shit again. I was like, oh, it's not as bad as yesterday, but I'm definitely not feeling very well right now.
See, Dev gives the sympathetic Canadian response. I simply say, if you're allergic to anything, you've clearly been born wrong. And the future genetic supremacists groups will purge you. Do not worry. Or fix you. We'll see what I have resources for. Says the guy who has grass allergies himself. It's real fun mowing the lawn, I'll tell you.
Do you actually have grass allergies?
Yes, it's wonderful.
Just regular ass grass. You can't
Yep.
even touch it.
Oh no, I can touch it fine. It's just when you mow it, like it kicks up like the fucking grass thingy bob particles or whatever, and it gets them in my eyes, and it starts itching like mad. So mild grass allergies.
That sucks. Just have the hired help do it.
I mean, I would.
Import a Mexican.
I'll make a robot.
Oh, actually, I was given a question to ask you by my chat.
Oh, what is
yesterday? Yeah. So we were watching the accessibility showcase 2023 for not E3 2023, hosted by Laura Kate Dale. If you know the deep lore on her.
Barely.
Barely. Well, one person who was in that was a Norwegian woman who has rheumatoid arthritis and PTSD, and she has, I think, autism, and she's disabled, and she's very, very, very left leaning because all she talks about is accessibility in video games. And about 5 people in my chat asked me if you would date her.
Doesn't sound like my kind of chick, no.
My God, that was a terrible conference. It's just 45 minutes of talking about how to make your games more accessible for disabled people.
She better be hot, and I'll consider dicking her right, but she's going to be really attractive.
She looked like somebody who was hot 20 years ago.
Oh. So it's the female who's like, I'm not getting attention anymore. What I'll do? Oh, I'll become a radical.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Well, good for her. Her life choices are working out, I'm sure. So John says, as an Arab, if a teacher said that to me, my reply would be, my people stone them and throw them from really tall buildings. That's true. And Vulture1066 says, "Hey Art, stream Doom 3. Is that the Doom 3? Yeah, that was the horror variant, wasn't it? I played that for a little bit, and that was when I was but a wee boy. I was like, no, scary, don't want to play it no more. That game had a lot of jump scares, if I remember correctly.
Doom 3, really?
Yes, like a Doom Knight just standing behind a door waiting for you. It was a very dark. It was like Doom trying to be horror, which I always thought was a massive misstep for a game that's, primarily about shooting zombies, but eh.
I thought Doom was about shooting demons.
Zombies, demons, much the same thing. Adherent of Lady Columbia says, "Why does it feel like some elements of culture are resetting to 2010's attitude toward protected groups? Seems like the fever is finally breaking." Well, yeah, I genuinely do believe that the fever has gotten to the point now where everyone has started noticing. Like, you're 3 weeks into the common cold and you're like, I hate this.
Yeah, I think that's something I mentioned last year, is that it felt like we were finally cresting the wave. We were at the top. It was as crazy as it was going to get, at least institutionally, and there was going to start being some rollback as the normies wake up. And I think we're seeing that now.
Yep. And that is, in return, though, I will say this, it means that things are going to get worse in the short term. Because once they start losing, oh, you bet you they are not going to be happy.
Yep, it's going to be rough, I think.
So, speaking of losing, and the fact that Japan is about to go through what we've already gone through, let me bring up today's conscientious subject. So, I don't know if you've been hearing about this, but the last week or so, Japan has been undergoing quite a bit of back and forth on the LGBTQ issue and gay marriage. Where a lot of Japanese who are rather conservative view this as basically the bleeding edge of the LGBT nonsense moving into the public political sphere in Japan.
Right. And I've heard a little bit about it. Didn't they have, there was some sort of court case and basically the gays lost? Is that what it was?
Not quite.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a complicated one. So the article here, which you'll need to translate to English, and it doesn't do a halfway decent job of giving you the generalistic details. Mm-hmm. English does not translate well from Japanese. But a married couple, or prospective married couple, in the Nagoya district entered the application process for a civil marriage. So, a state marriage rather than a church marriage. Mm-hmm. And the appeal was rejected on the basis that they did not have the legal right to become married. And so the couple sued the Nagoya district, and this was then sent to the first-tier court, who determined that the district had violated the law, the Equality Under the Laws Act, but it also found that it hadn't done anything wrong in that it had applied the law as written and therefore denied damages. So we're in a bit of a pinch here where the court has said that it is illegal to deny gay people to become married, but it was also not illegal for the district to deny them the ability to become married.
Wait. Yeah. Can you say that again?
It's not supposed to make sense, Dev.
So, it's legal for them to be married, but it's illegal for them to become married.
Well, not really. So the judgment was that it violated Article 14 of the Constitution, which stipulates equality under the law, and then it quotes Article 24, which stipulates freedom to marry. And they didn't grant damages because the Diet had not neglected to take legislative measures. In other words, they had acted in accordance with the legal procedures. But this is where it gets a little bit dicey, because what the court's argument is that everyone should be treated equally before the law, regardless of sexuality, fair enough, and everyone has access to marriage, because marriage is also enshrined within the Japanese constitution, fair enough. So this should be a slam dunk, right? Except that is not actually what the Japanese constitution says. I'll link it to you here, the English version. you can go find Article 24, where it says, marriage shall be based only on the mutual consent of both sexes, and it shall be maintained through mutual cooperation with the equal rights of husband and wife as a basis.
Right. So this is going to be the gay people have the right to get a straight marriage argument then, basically.
Yes. And the thing is, in the Japanese constitution, there is no mention of gay marriages, of homosexual marriages, of same-sex marriages. It very clearly defines marriage as between a man and a woman. So it's the Christian definition. Marriage is between a man and a woman.
Yeah. I mean, it's more than the Christian definition, but it is a Christian definition, yeah. Lots of religions have that definition. But I guess, see, here's the thing. I was never against the idea of civil unions, where all the rights are conferred to a gay couple. You just don't use the word marriage. I'm actually fine with that. If they wanted to go that route, if the West wanted to go that route, it's completely fine by me.
The thing is, okay, so the question here is less regarding the law, because the law is pretty clear on the matter, because they very specifically wrote that man, woman, etc. But this is now the third court in Japan that has ruled that you cannot deny gay marriage. So now it's going to have to come to the Supreme Court, because what's happening here is, and this is the argument of the people who say, like, this is the bleeding edge of progressivism in Japan, the courts are trying to override the Constitution and legislate around it by reading it in a very narrow way, by saying, like, everyone has right to marriage. Yeah, that's true. And then they stop there instead of reading the rest of the article.
Hold on here, let's see. Article 14. I'm checking that out too. All of the people are equal under the law, and there shall be no discrimination in political, economic, or social relations because of race, creed, sex, social status, or family origin. Doesn't say anything about sexuality in there.
Race, creed, sex, social status, genital, family origin. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Sexuality is not a protected characteristic. Neither is gender identity, like it is in Canada for some reason.
Well, this constitution was drawn up by somewhat more conservative minds, shall we say.
Right. I wonder if they've tested it a different way yet. Like if, let's say, there's a gay couple that gets married overseas, and one of them's Japanese, and they decide to go back to Japan together. Because they weren't married in Japan, could they compel the government to recognize the marriage?
I would presume no, because it wouldn't fit the Japanese definition of marriage.
True. But I mean, if they're trying to do a thing where the government has to allow gay marriage, but they don't have to allow you to get married, the workaround would be getting married overseas then coming back.
Potentially.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. I mean, I know that there's definitely been pushes for gay marriage. Even as the Constitution is written, you could do the civil union thing, because was it 24? Yeah, 24. It says nothing about civil unions. It says nothing about a status that offers all the benefits of marriage but isn't called marriage and is used for gay people only. Nothing in the Constitution bars that.
I don't know if Japan has civil unions. Let's see.
They probably don't, to be honest.
Japan does not recognize same-sex marriage or civil unions.
Yeah. But because there's nothing barring civil unions to be, like, just to have that status created in their constitution, they probably could do it.
Yes, because there's nothing barring civil unions in the constitution.
Yeah.
That would be the potential workaround. Now, I would not be opposed to that as an idea, but I also do actually agree that this is probably the leading edge of progressivism moving into Japan as a legislative and political force, because these judges are very clearly reading the Constitution in a creative way, shall we say.
True. They're doing the activist judge thing, yeah. The issue is like, I was pro-gay marriage, back in the 2000s when it got legalized here in Canada. Still am. If Japan decided to go that route, I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest. The issue has been here in the West are the steps that they take afterwards. There have been some very bad steps that have been taken afterwards. This step itself is not bad. There doesn't really seem to be an argument against it from a moral perspective. But you have to like keep an eye out of what comes next.
Well, a bunch of it is coming at the same time. Let me see if I can find the other one here. There's been a slow kind of roll in Japan over this over the last couple of years. For example, there was a case for a couple of years ago where it came out that Japanese school teachers were starting to teach about gender identity in classrooms. Where the teachers claimed that they had students that felt uncomfortable with their gender, in this case, a 6-year-old boy.
Listen, Arch, Japan has always been the land of traps. You cannot deny.
Sort of true, yes.
Here's the thing. This is going to be a different type of conversation, considering Japan's relationship with cross-dressing, with being gay, is fundamentally different than a Christian nation's. Right?
Yes, but I also point out that for the Japanese, cross-dressing is not necessarily a homosexual act, if that makes sense.
True. I know. Yeah, that's definitely true. Sometimes it is. I mean,
yes,
but sometimes it isn't. Yeah.
Because they do view this genuinely a bit differently. Because as you mentioned, yeah, traps are absolutely and genuinely a part of Japanese culture and has been for decades. But it is viewed in a different light that is difficult to fully explain in Western terms.
Yeah. And honestly, the same thing with like young lesbians too. It's not just like people who are fapping furiously to Yuri. There's something in the culture about young women relationships that we just don't have over here. So yes. I think that there's something different happening here that can't necessarily be viewed through a European lens.
It's also the fact that the Japanese view on sexuality in general is, I would argue, more nuanced. Like, this is where we introduce, like, the concept of yuri. Like, yuri can mean good old-fashioned lesbian slicking, etc., but more often than not, it refers to a specific sort of romance/genre of entertainment rather than pornography. Dev?
I'm thinking about something. I'm trying to remember something.
There we go.
I have lost shit. Now there was something that I knew about this that has since vanished over the years.
Chat, quickly clip that I have lost part and use it.
Frequently. No, I have lost the thought.
Yeah. No. There you go again, chat. Another opportunity.
Not.
Think of the use you can have of that.
So the thing is that, yeah, very clearly activist judges bad no matter what. No matter what politics you're pushing for. Even if it were politics that I agree with, activist judges bad. Judges are meant to judge by the rules of the game that are already set. They're not meant to change the rules. That's the job of the legislature, right? This sort of thing should go through the legislature. If you want gay marriage, get a bill passed. I said that. I say that in Japan. I say it in America. I say it here. That was the whole conversation. Like, everyone was screaming about Roe v. Wade, about how it's, this is destroying women's health and all this. It's like, listen, very clearly, a good chunk of the United States does not want abortion, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that you had to precariously, hold these rights through, honestly, a really bad court ruling, rather than enshrine them in law through passing a bill, shows that you couldn't pass a bill. You didn't have the support. So it's one of those things, like, if you live in a democracy and you want some policy to be law of the land, you have to pass it, which means it has to be at least somewhat popular. If Japan can't get gay marriage passed, that probably means it's not that popular, or at least people don't care enough about it to vote on it.
Yep.
So the fact that it's activist judges doing it, even though I fundamentally agree with gay marriage, the fact that activist judges are trying to get it done, that's not necessarily a good thing.
There was also the rather hilarious thing that happened just the other day, you probably heard about this, where the leader of the Communist Party, basically, tried to storm the National Assembly to stop a law that would make it easier to deport immigrants.
You know, hold on. This has to be in relation to. Oh, there was a viral video a month ago of a random, I think it was a Muslim immigrant, ran up and just like beat the shit out of a Japanese woman, then ran away. Like the video went viral. This has to be in response to that.
There's been a couple of those, because
Okay.
I know you recently covered Mizzo, or whatever his name was, in Britain, right?
Yep.
So
I did so, yes.
to give a very, very brief overview, let me see here. Let me just find it, and I'll actually put that up on screen, because he did do a very good breakdown on it. There you go. So yes, Mizzo here decided to do some really, really retarded shit. That's the best descriptor I can really offer up for it. And on occasion, some really, really illegal shit, too.
Yeah, there was like, I think the worst bit about it is when he walked up to people with his hands in his pockets and said, "Do you want to die?"
Yes.
It's like you're in London, there's machete attacks and shit. Like, come on, dude. You know exactly what you're doing.
Yes.
The thing is, Mizzo doesn't seem stupid. He seems uneducated, and he seems like he is living in an environment, let's say, that is very low class, very poor, right? But he is a showman, and he does grind. So he's realized that, hey, I can make a channel where I run into these middle class white British people and act like the thug they think I am, record their reactions. Those videos go viral. I make money. I can get out of the hood. You know, it's probably a pretty good plan for him, but it is terrible for everyone around him.
Yes, because under any normal circumstance, somebody walks up to you in the middle of the night, hands in his pocket, and goes, "Do you want to die?" You should view that as a threat.
Yes. Yes.
That is not reasonable behavior. He also entered into a train that was Stop's control compartment and started pressing buttons. Bad fucking idea, incidentally. Yep.
I think that might have been the one that finally got him arrested.
Yes, and
he's now like done. He's fucked. He's gone too far. He's like he's violated several different laws, and now the cops are finally throwing the book at him.
Yes, and this also has been kind of, I don't know, resonating, because I think there's too much of a distance and difference between the two for this to really like be directly inspired by one another. But there were similar events to this in Japan very recently, where a black guy riding the subway was yelling at people and bothering them, then was stopped by another gaijin, a foreigner.
Yes,
and that became a big thing.
He was saying stuff about like nuking Japan or something, and he got punched out. I remember seeing that too. There was also a video maybe 3 months ago now, where it was an older Asian man who was very clearly Western, though. He was from the West. The way he dressed, the way he talked, he was clearly not from Japan, but he was Asian. And he was maybe like in his early 40s, and he was trying to make it as like a young style streamer by pranking and doing. It was very cringe to watch considering his age. But he was in this Japanese subway, and he's blaring music. He's actually blaring Skrillex from back in the day. It's like, Jesus, this whole thing's a blast from the past. But he's blaring Skrillex, and Japanese people start telling him to turn it down. And he starts getting into fights with them on stream. He was streaming it on Twitch. He had his Twitch channel banned for this, actually. He was just trying to go viral, right? So this is something that I've noticed, is that as there have been more foreigners living in Japan, and more of those foreigners have been streamers, they've tried to import the same prank culture that kind of works in some places in the West, and it's just not meshing with Japan.
Mm-hmm. Now, the second example, the guy who was bothering people in the subway, he very quickly changed his ways, even made a video apologizing for it, in which he was hit by a random passerby, and he he didn't do anything back. He just like said, calm down, and then the police came and dealt with the situation properly. So he clearly, at the very least, understood that what he was doing was not a very good thing to be doing, so credits to him for that.
Was that the guy that that talked about the nukes?
Yes.
Was that him?
Yes,
Yeah,
that was him.
That sounds like it.
But Japan is being more and more on the receiving end of this, and like Japan's already a rather racist community. And I mean that in the literal sense, not the progressive one.
Really depends. Really depends. Like, I'm not sure if a Japanese person would be openly racist to your face the way that you might see in the West.
Oh, they will.
But
I have
but
literally been to a Japanese restaurant and be called like damned foreigner to my face. Problem is, I understand Japanese.
I've seen like Japanese people be very, very polite and welcoming to foreigners and very understanding, and then they'll turn around and like post on 2chan a bunch of racist shit.
Yes.
But like they kind of keep the peace in the public, you know.
That is the Japanese idea of the tatemae, the front. They will always be polite whenever possible, as long as they know you are looking at them, etc. Like, the Japanese are not fans of foreigners, and I'm not just talking about black people here, just in general.
I mean, yes and no, because if you're a white guy in Japan, or frankly any Asian country, it's a lot easier to pick up girls. There's definitely like a fascination, a cross-race fascination for sure.
Possibly.
I pulled something out real quick. If you want to go back 1 point to the Japanese Communist Party. So you mentioned them because he's getting into a fight trying to stop this immigration law, right? Yeah, so the last I had heard of them is when they commissioned this video. I don't know if you've seen it. They commissioned this back in, I think, 2020? Maybe 2021?
Happy 100th birthday to the Communist Party of Japan. That's the Communist Party of Japan.
Okay, you should watch the video, though. I think you'll like it.
We are the Communist Party. Politics with you. The future with you. Oh, this is some pretty hard cringe.
Do you like the music?
Let's see. That is very Japanese. That is very, very, very Japanese. I'll say that much at least. This has very strong, like, hello, fellow kids. I see these dancing anime girl things are popular with you. Here, have one of these. Except then they're like, but we're communists, so we've got to dress her up, and then we've got to put a coat on her to dress her up even further. Let's also give her a nice pair of problem glasses, so as to just completely destroy any appeal it might possibly have.
I think she has like a nice nerd girl appeal.
I don't know about that. I have seen the Japanese definition of nice nerd girl.
But yeah, it definitely seems like anime is popular, VTubers are popular, dancing girls are popular. We've got to appeal to the kids.
Yep, we got to do one of those. Completely misses the point on every single solitary level. There was also there was a funny little thing where they canceled you know what the term gravure means in Japan?
That doesn't that mean like softcore?
Yes, it means chicks in bikinis, basically.
Yeah.
So the Communist Party had apparently noticed a gravure shoot at a local pool, and they'd moved in masse and sent in protests and stuff to cancel the gravure photo shoot because they considered it pedophilic. It's like, oh, you have a problem with that now? And this was apparently in like protection of women, etc. Here, I'll show you a picture of the underaged girl, as you can clearly see here. She has to bend over so as to be on the same level with the man.
Yeah, she does not seem underage. She just seems like, early 20s model, maybe 19 or something,
Yes, and the models themselves too objected, saying that no, this is I earn a living by doing this, and I actually quite like being paid for just sitting around in my bikini. Thank you. I don't need your protection.
Yeah, there's been a lot of moves lately to basically take women who are of age but look young and call that pedophilia, which is so fucking
I
ridiculous.
saw the cosplay one with the two like One Punch Man girls, Fubiki and Hatsumaki.
Yes, I saw that too.
Yes.
Yes, and they actually got like a 4'9" real life woman to play that part, and they called it pedophilia. It's like this lady's like 25.
Yes, and she actually literally responded like I'm 20 or something, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, this is old news now. I think it's at least a decade old. But in Australia, they banned porn of they banned flat-chested porn. If you have a woman who is of age but has a flat chest, that's considered child porn in Australia.
All right. Well, there you go.
So, yeah, there's some very strange puritanism coming out of this. It's gonna be I don't know, maybe in the future when the entire right wing has been like vanquished and ground into the dirt and it's only leftists who remain. I wonder if there'll be like a pro pedo versus anti pedo left that fights over this.
Maybe. I found the picture too. This is a bit spicy on YouTube, but we'll risk it for a few moments. So, like, to steelman the position, I could see how somebody who simply just glanced at this could be like, well, she does look awfully young. But at the same time, like, if you look a little closer and you look into where the cosplay photo shoot came from, it is very obvious she's a professional cosplayer. She is well and thoroughly of age. There is nothing illegal going on here.
She's just short.
Yes,
The
like
the
literally, like she's just short.
yeah, the thing is they ask the question, well, why do you like short girls? What does that remind you of?
Yeah,
Why?
because
Why do
they
you like
then
why do
double
you like girls with no
down.
hair? Yeah. Like why is it that you like girls that have all their hair shaven off? Like what's wrong with you? Like they're like dancing around the idea that you actually like kids and this is how you legally get your rocks off. That's going to be the implication there.
Yeah, but the issue isn't even that. I think at that point they're just getting into debate mode. Basically, it's like, oh, instead of saying, "Oh, I fucked up, sorry," like I didn't know, she looked young to me, they go, "Well, I guess I'll have to double down." So
It's very
Japan is
strange.
Japan's going to
I've
get
been
its own LGBTQ wave. It's coming, Japanese people. Prepare your buttholes.
I think it'll be fundamentally different just because of the different history of what being gay was and is there. Um, I don't know. Also, I think because we're on the edge of the wave, they will see, what are the good things that the left has actually brought, like gay marriage? What are the bad things that left has brought? And they're going to be like, okay, well, maybe we can take this and not take that. That is one of the advantages of going second, is you can see all the mistakes of the people who went first.
Yes. Like the optimistic point of view here is that the Japanese will, look over at the West and go, maybe not that. But well, that is the question, because Japan has often been very, very slow at adapting to change, and that is, of course, where we will go on to Capcom. Because Capcom recently
Oh
released a
my.
very popular Street Fighter 6, which was received with a quite a lot of like happy joy, because it seems like a good game.
I'm actually very surprised because Capcom, aside from Monster Hunter, Capcom's been like just taking L's constantly. Capcom's been an L's machine. They can't. Like, it all started with them canceling Mega Man Legends 3 back in Nintendo 3DS, and ever since then they've been like neglecting every good series. They've been putting out shitty Resident Evils. Resident Evil 4 was pretty good, but like 2 wasn't great, 3 was abysmal. It seems like Capcom has not been doing that well, in my opinion.
Because we've got some contradicting signals here. On the one hand, they reintroduce Kami's leotard skin, so they're clearly bringing back the sexy smexy there. But at the same
Oh,
time,
that's right. I remember this now
they're
because yeah. Sorry, just I saw the I was actually really hyped for the trailer for Street Fighter 6, and
mhm.
they had like desexed a bunch of those costumes, and now they're like bringing back all the old costumes, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
looks like it. But then they have also introduced on their website a sustainability tab. The ESG tab, environmental social governance. Oh, happy days.
Mm-hmm.
This also includes the rather disturbing, and this has been up for a while as far as I am able to tell, but it's only really been making the rounds now because people have been looking into it now that they saw the ESG part. Localization and culturalization. What is more, depending on the country, simply translating games developed on a Japanese norm can end up hurting users unexpectedly due to historical, religious, or cultural differences. With the last one there being of particular note.
That is correct. And actually, I have something for you in that regard. You know the game Mega Man Battle Network?
No.
Okay, so Nintendo DS comes out. The DS is massively popular and also very hard to develop for because it has the two screens and it kind of is weird. It has like one of the first ARM processors. It was kind of weird to develop for. So DS games that came out, they were kind of their own thing. They didn't just port other games. They actually made people tended to make their own side series. And for Mega Man, because Mega Man was still a relevant series back in 2005 or whatever it was, Capcom made Mega Man Battle Network. It was popular enough to get 6 games in the DS. Mega Man Battle Network 1 through 6. Very beloved series. Died off as Capcom moved away from Mega Man. But Capcom releases, was it a month or two ago? 2 months ago. They decided to release the Mega Man Battle Network collection for all the fans who have been clamoring for them on modern consoles because that's just how things are now. You know, old game cartridges start breaking, they go missing. You know, they're really hard to buy. Emulation's illegal. They want to play their Mega Man Battle Network on a new system. Okay, so there was a huge controversy surrounding Capcom. I'll send it to you right now, Arch, because even though there was nothing really offensive in Mega Man in Battle Network, Capcom is putting this screen at the beginning of all of their re-release collections. Where the screen
Capcom
says,
values diversity and inclusivity with its games and its community. Please be aware that the game in this collection may contain some cases of insensitive cultural depictions that are presented as originally created to preserve their authenticity.
Yeah. So Mega Man Battle Network, it's probably the most explicitly, overtly anime-styled Mega Man game, or like sub-series of the entire Mega Man games. So there's a bunch of the goofy stuff that you'd see in anime, you know, regarding like, you know, the girl best friend character and how the guy has hots for her or whatever, or like, you know, depictions of different races, you know what, you know, anime stuff, right?
Yep.
Like comedy stuff that you'd see in a boys anime. Well, because that's offensive in 2023, that's why these splash screens. This screen appears in the Battle Network collection. It appears in the Mega Man collection, the Mega Man X collection. Basically, all of Capcom's old banger games. They're all getting the please don't bully us for re-releasing this old content screen.
Who would have known that cultural insensitivity makes for good games?
Yep. Oh, and also, did you see? What? Hold on. I need to find it. Here, give me 30 seconds to find it.
Alright, I'll do a couple more of the super chats then. So John said, Dead Space Trilogy Arch? How much? Trilogy? Well, I guess that'll be $3,000 then. I hear Dead Space is scary. I don't like scary. Aren't half of those on consoles as well? You are not getting me to play a fucking console game. They're remastered or nothing, bruh. Jamie One says, hey Arch, how does the Imperium transport a Emperor-class Titan off-world? They actually use Titan dropships. Like, they're drop pods, but for Titans. It's kind of retarded. And it takes them forever. Like, literally, they need to land this entire huge-ass ship on the planet, and then the Titan needs to be assembled on-world, practically. Like, it is a process that under normal conditions should take days or possibly weeks to get it ready. But it's literally a drop pod, except it's the size of a hive city. Marksman117B says, did you see the film I recommended, Unicorn Wars? I did. Its ending was kind of dumb. Not even kind of dumb. It was very dumb. I don't entirely understand the points of aforementioned movie. I did watch it. It was weird.
Okay, I've returned.
All right.
Arch, do you remember Dino Crisis?
Vaguely.
Another one of the Capcom IPs that has kind of gone by the wayside. It was a PS1 horror game that involved dinosaurs rather than zombies, even though it was made in the Resident Evil engine. Okay, uh, Capcom just for some reason they're not resurrecting the Dino Crisis name for this. They're doing a new dinosaur game, which is basically like Dino Crisis, just set in the future, called Exoprimal, and everyone's really excited.
Extra. Oh, are we going to talk about how they used VTubers in Japan and drag queens in the West? And Dev mutes himself. Oh, yep, there we go.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I have those right now. Yes.
Yep.
Um.
I knew where this one was going.
Yep. This is the advertisement for Exoprimal when they had like a closed beta or a demo or something. Capcom hired 3 Japanese VTubers.
Yep.
They got 105,000 views on their stream. And then in the English world, to advertise Exoprimal for Westerners, they had 2 drag queens stream the game. There's quite a difference between these
Yep.
two situations. Now, if you go to twitchtracker.com and you plug in that stream VOD,
I'm sorry, chat.
if you plug in that stream VOD, you can see that their official stream VOD on Capcom USA for Exoprimal with the 2 drag queens had an average of 422 viewers, maxed out at 553. That is not a good set of numbers for a major release by a major game studio.
No,
Especially compared to
that is less than us right now. That's damn near
yes,
half of us right now.
yeah. Especially compared to the fact that the VTubers got 105,000 views on their VOD in 2 days. Meanwhile, if you want to go to their VOD, Arch, and check it right now, here it is. You'll see that they have 1,800 views. And it's been how many months since then? 3 months.
I don't even know how Twitch works. I can't even see the views.
Oh, it's right at the bottom. So you click on the link and it says Exoprimal Open Beta Test. Exoprimal,
Yep.
1846 views.
Open betas with Derry and Bitch Puddin. Oh, God. Save me.
Yep. And if you want to skip ahead just 1 minute in, you can see them in all their glory.
I don't think I want to, Dev. I think I don't wish to. I had their picture up on screen for a bit, and I think that'll be enough for chat's sake. But no, like, it is so... This is partially also the Japanese worldview, like, because the Japanese view the West as this weird amorphous entity. Like, it's only been, like, 6, 7, 8 years since they started releasing stuff in the West. Previous to that, they thought we were just pirates and thieves and scoundrels, all of us, and we would never pay for a video game or anything like that. They have this very half-formed view of what the West is. And so they will hear... Like, oh, in the West, everyone's gay now. Like, everyone's a homosexual. Like, drag queens are super popular. Like, they're like the VTubers of the West. And so for their own people, they'll get cute VTubers laughing and screaming in little girlish voices. And people will watch it. Thousands of people will watch it. And then for the West, they'll go like, well, they're gay, right? Let's get the 2 most offensively male-looking drag queens we can get. And that'll be super popular. And then they'll look at the results and they'll just scratch their heads like, but Gaijin's weird. Maybe they didn't like the video game.
To be fair, that honestly kind of sounds like what we thought Japan was back in the early 2000s when the internet was just was really starting to get going for the first time. You know, there was, I don't know if you remember this, but there was this idea that being gay, especially if you were a trap or a lesbian, not necessarily if you were masculine. If you were a trap or a lesbian in Japan, it was much more accepted than it actually was. Probably because, and we all thought that probably because we were all watching anime, where it is actually more accepted in those storylines generally. Yeah.
What we didn't know was that watching anime in Japan was not actually very culturally acceptable.
Exactly. I don't know if I can show you this one. I have another story, but I don't know if I can show you because it's actually pretty spicy. Okay. Do you know about the Resident Evil 4 Ashley kerfuffle with Capcom?
Where they decided to put a jacket on her to hide her quote-unquote sweater puppies.
Yes, and also because she was kind of more attractive, kind of in the original game. Um,
She
but
was.
also,
They aged her up in a way in the next one.
yeah, she was like 16 in the original game, wasn't she? She was young.
Yeah.
She was like 16 and hitting on Leon, and Leon's like, "LOL, no way, fag."
Because Leon.
um, but yeah, there was a situation with Nexus mods where Capcom went around and
Yes.
started copyright striking Nexus mods for making Ashley mods of Ashley in Resident Evil 4 Steam version that were sexualized. And the logic that they were giving is that Ashley was scanned by who Ashley was actually a body scan of an actual actress who didn't want to be sexualized. That was the logic that Capcom was giving, if you remember. Um, the ultimate issue with that was that the model that they appeal to, you probably can't show this. Uh, this is the picture in which she looks
Ah.
the most Ashley like.
Yes. She.
Aside from her official cosplays, this is the picture that basically landed her the Ashley job. And she has no problem, as you can see, being sexualized.
She doesn't
So
look like she objects. No.
no. You probably can't show that one though on screen. But the idea that Capcom is saying that she doesn't want to be sexualized, therefore don't make like nude mods of her, just seems to be Capcom, like at least Capcom USA virtue signaling.
Yes. Okay, here we go. I can show this one. This is just one of her cosplaying as Ashley.
Hmm.
And you can already see she's not wearing the jacket, etc. You know, sweater puppies are on display. This is not a woman who's going to be like, oh no, you naughty boys, don't sexualize me. That'd be terrible. And this is
So
also, of course, I got to bring up the reverse too, because you remember they didn't strike the Leon mods where he shed a fair bit of his clothing as well.
that's right. Oh man.
It's like the stupid Spider-Man controversy for a while ago, where people removed the pride flag. That mod got yeeted, but the mod that replaced all of the American flags with pride flags, that was okay. Like it's very obvious politicization.
Yes. Yeah. Which was it's just ridiculous. Like it's a mod site. You know, you can get your mods from anywhere. These mods are not going to vanish just because they're off Nexus mods, right? But it's one of those things where I think I even did a video on it last year. I kind of forget half the story now. It's been a while, but it's one of those things where it's clearly just the owner. Like he was an edgelord when he was young. He grew up and now he's pulled the ladder up behind him and he's being an asshole. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Hey, Chad, I'll give you some more of Ashley instead of Leon's pecs. I'm sure you'll prefer it.
Is there nobody in your chat that wants Leon's pecs?
Oh, I'm sure there's someone, but they're keeping quiet because they know they'll be bullied. They'll be in the majority. I will say, this is a very classic Japanese cosplay in that you can literally see the traces after the Photoshop. See,
Yeah,
the,
I
the
think the person
Japanese
is
understand that porn doesn't need to be realistic to be hot. It needs to be perfect. The closer to perfection it is, the better for the majority of people.
yeah, I think she's actually she's white obviously, but she's an actress in Japan. She does like Japanese cosplays and she works for Japanese agencies, but she's white.
Mm-hmm.
Um to loop it back around to Street Fighter 6. There's one final thing. I'm trying to confirm it though. There's one final thing. It might take too long to confirm. Maybe I just have to rely on random person on Twitter saying it, you know?
Random
Someone on
person
Twitter is
Twitter.
yeah, someone is claiming that in even though Street Fighter 6 is a full-priced game, you can buy two different battle passes for it that give you access to two different sets of characters. There are three different in-game currencies that you have to grind to unlock stuff. And also, if you spend extra on the collector's editions or whatever, you don't get anything that nets you ahead in this grind. So, even though it's a full-priced game, there's a lot of loot boxy, grindy, pay-to-win nonsense in Street Fighter 6.
That sounds like
And
a current year video game to me.
yeah, yeah.
I don't even think we need confirmation. That is literally just like, is it the current year? Yes.
See, I know you make fun of me for liking Nintendo, Arch. Fair enough. There's some problems with Nintendo. I have never pulled out a Nintendo game that has done this stuff. You know, if you pop in Metroid Dread, it's a full experience right out of the box. You pop in Mario Odyssey, it's a full experience. Breath of the Wild had one set of DLC, but it was just DLC. You get like new dungeons and new things to do. It was $20, take it or leave it, but the full game was a full experience. You know, Nintendo hasn't cucked to this shit, thank God.
That is true, I suppose. Meanwhile, you have the current Diablo 4 being everybody's hotness, having a $100 release if you wanted early access, followed, of course, by a premium battle pass that you could skip on day one, with in-game microtransactions and cosmetics, of course.
Oh God. And you know what? Diablo 4 doesn't even look as good as Diablo 3. I watched some streamers play that game and it looks like absolute dog shit.
It's not like it's literally just a basic bitch ARPG. It does nothing new or interesting. The story's not interesting. The setting's not interesting. You'd do better playing practically any other ARPG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. Hold on. Someone in your chat says, "LOL, Tears of the Kingdom is a $70 DLC." It kind of is, to be honest. Do you know about the Tears of the Kingdom situation?
No.
Okay, so Tears of the Kingdom is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild. Happens 5 years later in the timeline, and it uses the exact same open world. So that allowed Nintendo to reuse a lot of the old art assets, and it's the same engine, so there hasn't been much in the way of like graphical upgrades and stuff. So on the surface, it seems like it's a big old rehash, right? However, it is not, because they added a full extra open world underground. They added the Underdark, where you can go down into hell, and there's like a whole extra open world down there. And they also added a bunch of sky islands above the main world. They all have their own things going on, and they added like 1.5 extra open worlds basically, because the entire sky isn't covered in islands, but there's a bunch of things up there. And also they changed the original map a shit ton because 5 years have passed, and they actually make it feel like 5 years have passed because like there's a new town that's been built up, there's structures that have been destroyed. Like the world has changed significantly enough for it to actually be worth it. So Tears of the Kingdom is one of those games that you can't really enjoy without having really enjoyed Breath of the Wild. But for a Breath of the Wild continuation, it's incredible. It's the best you could possibly hope for a game like that.
This sounds like apologia to me, chat. Ratio him now.
Hold on. It's not just a new town in 5 years. They change like they're okay. I guess I'll spoil a little bit then. Fuck you. All right. The entire like Rito area was covered in a giant snowstorm. Man, they changed the desert a whole bunch. Like the the tropical village got invaded by pirates. Like they changed a bunch of things. A bunch of things have been changed, and basically, if you are a big Breath of the Wild fan, if you're playing Tears of the Kingdom, the first thing that you want to do is go see how everyone's doing, right? Like what happened to that village? What happened to the Great Plateau? What happened to the Great Deku Tree in the Lost Woods, right? Like if you like the setting and you like the characters, the fact that you come back 5 years later and things have changed, if you're really into that, that's a good hook. It's a very good hook.
Mm-hmm. If you say so.
I do.
If you say so. If you insist, for some weird reason.
Oh god, that really sounds like DLC. No, because they added an entire extra open world.
Entire extra
god
open
damn it.
world.
Yes,
Ew.
it's just as big as the original. Plus, they included the old one, and hold on. Listen here, you fucks. All right, all of you fuckers in the chat, listen. when back in the day when you were playing Pokemon Red and Green and Blue on your Game Boy, and then 2 or 3 years later you bought Pokemon Gold and Silver, was Gold and Silver a DLC of Red and Blue, even though it contained the entirety of Kanto? The answer is obviously no. It's the same kind of thing. You have the entire old game plus a whole new game on top of it.
I don't know about that, Dev. Chat, you'll have to yell at him. It's the only solution. Preferably in super chat form. Speaking of, before we move on to the final topic of the day, I'll get through a few more. Marksman of 117B says they should leave the marriage to the church, a vow of word in front of God, and civil unions for everyone under government contract. That's the solution. Yeah, I agree. Marriage should be a uniquely religious thing, and civil unions should be available to everybody else.
That sounds good to me, yeah.
Boog says simply gay marriage, and then follows YouTube. Says opens the gate for the rest of the agenda. Should have never been allowed. Had to send two because YouTube didn't allow it all in one. Weird, huh? Weird. But no, I do agree. Like, this is absolutely the bleeding edge of the agenda. Now, I too agree with Deb. There should be civil unions in Japan that confer the same rights to gay people as marriage do to straight people. I see nothing wrong with that. But when the activist judges then misread their own law in order to push it, that isn't a civil rights issue. That is a political issue.
Yeah, I know there's like a slippery slope argument. However, the counter to that, I've always believed, is that you can just not go down the slippery slope. You know, you can arbitrarily say that A is good and B is bad, and that's what I'm doing.
Yes, but you can't stop society from coming down the slippery slope. As I tell you, sitting at the bottom of the slope we call 2023.
We're not at the bottom yet.
That's true.
Here's the thing. If the snapback actually gets rid of gay marriage, that will be a bad thing, I think. And that will be something that will have to be fought.
If the clapback gets rid of gay marriage, as in religious gay marriage, I'll be ambivalent towards it. If it gets rid of it as a civil union, yes, that will be too far. Sujan says, activist leaders all have the same early life. They kind of do, yeah. They need a radicalization point. Or a moment when they realize, hey, I can use a lot of people to my benefit doing this. Lord of Possum says, hi, Dev.
Hi.
Mark the Same says, sorry, I can't stay. My schedule changed after I got fired for a microaggression. Oh, dude, I'm really sorry to hear it. Calling an employee acting erratically a crazy lady, but someone else overheard and filed a violent ethics complaint. What the hell? That's retarded, dude.
That's pretty retarded, yeah.
That is very, very stupid. Mechanics on Duty says, fun fact, I thought you were Japanese is a high praise for a foreigner. You can also be paid to be a pet foreigner in a bar. So mixed bag. Ah, yes. See, when it comes to weird things that we just don't understand culturally, hostess bars is absolutely one of them. Where you go to talk to a pretty person, not even to fuck them, just to talk to the pretty person and have them, like, give you alcohol.
Yeah, it's very strange, isn't it? I mean, I've played Yakuza, so I've seen it, right? But it's very strange. Like, why not just talk to a girl?
Well, not even that. It's like, okay, see, because the part of the idea is that they're supposed to be fawning over you. You know, that's part of the appeal. It's supposed to have, like, the positive companionship of a woman, which is rare for men. Unironically, I'm not kidding even.
Hey, I got it. Why can't any... Like, listen, I'm a fat fuck. I got a girlfriend. Why can't you guys?
Well, girlfriends are not necessarily positive attention, Dev. I have a scar telling me that.
Well, mine is. I guess I lucked out.
But like, I understand, like, the point, so to say. But at that point, just get a whore, I guess. Like, you're paying the same. Why not go all the way? Like, what is the reason for stopping in the middle? Oh, well. Japan will be Japan. So John says, communist experiment, Kentler experiment. The Kentler experiment. I don't know what you're referring to.
Let me see.
Communist experiment, Kentler experiment, the German experiment that plays foster children with pedophiles. Oh, yes, that one. Ah, Helmut Kentler was a German psychologist, sexologist, and a professor of social education at the University of Hanover. Right. Yes, no, I remember it now. This was the guy who offered up the theory that since pedos really love children, they would make great foster parents. Which, it's horrible, but the logic is just funny, isn't it? It sounds like something out of a parody. Like, it's something you say as a joke, and then people laugh, and then he just stares at like, I wasn't joking. Like, German humor is no laughing matter, sir.
Maybe he wanted to do some sort of like pederast thing where samurais had sex with their squires or whatever.
I suppose. Again, German humor is no laughing matter. Seno says, have you seen the Foundation TV show? And this is very first super chat. Thank you very much, sir. I didn't like it. I read the book. I've read the book multiple times. I love Isaac Asimov, so to me, the show didn't look very appealing, so I stopped. But that's from a purist point of view. Mr. Twisted Frenzy says, hey, Arch, any chance you do a lore video on the Primarch Mortarion, his death guard? I find them morbidly fascinating and love to hear your analysis on them. Never say never, but those videos are very big and require a lot of research, which I don't have the time to do now, but never say never. Adherent of Lady Columbia says, gonna be weird as woman, expect men to look better, but as VTubers have become spread to obnoxious levels, boys will be disappointed in normal women. That is unironically true. Women have had for the longest time ridiculous expectation of men. I think you, Dev, did a TikTok Tuesday thing on this, where there was women who were like, what's the minimum income that a man would need to get with you? And they're like, 50, 60,000.
Oh, no. It was 100,000, 200,000, 500,000.
$500,000 a year. Like, you have no concept of money if you say that.
Yeah. I will say, though, I'm not sure if I necessarily buy into this whole VTubers and or porn are getting rid of regular women thing, because like it feels very interesting to kind of have that opinion, because you have like a lonely guy who's constantly jacking off and he's like simping for everyone, and it kind of seems that way, right? But like, there is nothing like actually talking to a real life girl in real life who's actually interested in you, right? Even if she's like a 6 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10, cannot compete with the VTuber, cannot compete with the OnlyFans thought physically in any way. But you put them beside you in real life and they actually show real interest in you, I think that guys will go for that. As soon as you actually experience someone who's really interested in you, I don't think any of this online nonsense matters.
Possibly. I think it does depend a lot on preferences, on perceptions, on how you were raised, your experiences with it, etc., etc. It's a very complex matter. Because at the very basic of it, I think that the VTuber, if you put it like this, the VTuber is there to be the ideal girl. She's there to be chatty and cute and laughy and haha with the anime avatar. That is literally their job, which is why they get fired when they don't do it.
Yep.
And they are very easily accessible. Anyone can load up a YouTube video with a VTuber and go, oh, this is a person. And the parasocial relationship between YouTubers and their audience is uniquely close in entertainment. Like there's nothing closer than that we've discovered so far, which is interesting and chilling in almost equal measures.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is very easy for people to get stuck in that rut, especially also as the dating life gets tougher and tougher as well. As dating becomes more difficult and the traditional avenues like bars, etc., become rarer and more of a hurdle. Because to go to a bar to pick up chicks, that is either a group activity where a group of guys are essentially giving each other courage to try, or aided by alcohol, or you need to have balls of steel. Because here's the thing. The worst thing that can happen when you ask a girl out isn't that she says no. It is that she laughs in your face, turns to her friends, points at you, continues to laugh, and makes you into a joke amongst their friend group for the rest of eternity. That is the worst case scenario. You could go viral on the internet for that. Now, that is rare, obviously, but that is the worst case scenario.
I guess they could also have the bouncer kick you out and beat the shit out of you too, for good measure.
Jesus. Yeah, I forgot about that. You harassed our female.
Yeah, it was a few weekly sips ago. I pointed out that conservative or traditional women still exist. You just have to, like what are you doing on OnlyFans, or what are you doing on like dating apps trying to find these girls? They're not gonna fucking be there, right? Like you can still find these girls. Go to a church. If you want to find a girl who will actually be a trad wife, go to a church and find one. They exist there. All right. There are communities where these people exist. You're just not in them because you're schizo posting on Twitter all day, every day about how the West has fallen and there's no good women anymore. And all you're doing is watching Project Melody to try to cope with it. And it's like, no. If you want to attract that kind of woman, you must be that kind of man.
Yeah, no, like it is absolutely the point, isn't it? Like, if you want to try and find a girl, you are going to have to go and actually try to find the girl. But this also introduces the next hurdle, and that is that if the VTuber becomes the normal, and it practically has, because that is the first thing you see on the internet. If the porn star becomes the normal, as it practically has, as that is probably your first interaction with pornographic or sexual nonsense, the level that it gets established is the super hot girl in the perfect makeup on Pornhub, or it is the giggly girl in the VTuber video. Which means that when you look at a normal woman, you go, well, you're not very attractive. Which turns the 6 out of 10, as you put it, into a 2 out of 10. That will get worse with AI.
I don't completely buy that. I don't completely buy that because there's something different when you meet someone in real life and not just on a screen. There is a different factor there. A woman you can actually touch is not going to be the same thing as even a perfected picture.
Give VR another 10 years, Dev. Unironically, like, I am definitely on the bandwagon that what is going to eradicate humanity is when we get good enough virtual reality porn. Because already, like, AI pornography is beginning to become almost as common as regular porn because it is so easy to generate, and you always get the quote-unquote perfect result from your point of view. Like, hell, the cosplayer chick, who's still up on screen, because I haven't found anything better to replace her with yet. I mean, she's a perfect example. This is a heavily photoshopped image, obviously. And yet, okay, how many people would actually prefer the natural, non-touched up version?
Are you asking the chat?
In general.
The thing is the real question is, how many people would prefer a woman who is not attractive but is actually beside you in real life, someone that you could touch, that you could have a real conversation with and would actually reply to you, someone who is interested in you, someone you could have a real relationship with that wasn't just based on a one-sided parasocial thing? Now that's the real question, right?
Yep. That it is. Yeah, it is. Though that also can go too far the other direction. Speaking from personal experience.
Yes, you can also get terrible girlfriends. Yes, obviously, right? But a real girlfriend that is good is still going to be better than even the best porn.
That is true. But yet again, you have the idea that, the perfect woman is out there. You just need to go on a 1,000,000-mile journey to the sun to find her. Because it feels like that for a lot of people. And again, with society being the way it is, being more online than ever, and knowing, as you said, the worst case scenario is you get beat up by the bouncer, it's like, it is difficult for men to put themselves out there. Which is also why we keep seeing articles from the feminists going like, where have all the good men gone? Don't know. No clue.
And that kind of reminds me of something. So it was me and Sargon and Adam and Sitch a couple weeks ago. We were arguing over birth rates because, of course, we were, right?
Yeah, of course you were.
And there was an article that I had read maybe 10 years ago or so. That basically said that humanity's base infertility rate is about 10%. So there's always going to be 10% of people that don't have kids. That's just how it is. Doesn't matter if you were living in the most pro-natalist society, the most forced birth society. They looked at Romania during the Decree 770 period, right? Where they had like the government mandated births, that shit. Um, and even then, they couldn't get infertility below 10%. So that seems to be the floor. There will always be 10% of people who they're either gay or lesbian and they don't have kids, or they're infertile, they can't have them. Um, they're disabled, so they're never going to be able to, or they just have like a strange personality. You know, they're uniquely not suited to reproduce, right? 90% of people tend to have kids. 10% of people tend to not to. Now, we've massively increased this number. It's now much higher than 10%. And I watched a documentary maybe 3 months ago or so. And in the documentary, they looked into the demographics of people who don't have children. What they realized is that it's not that people are having less kids, because if you have kids, you still have the same number of kids that your parents had generally. So if you come from a family of 2 to 4 siblings, you will likely have 2 to 4 children if you have kids. If you come from a family that had 10 siblings, you're likely to have 10 children if you have kids. What we're finding though is that rather than people having less kids, like having 1 to 2 instead of 2 to 4, everyone's having the same number of kids, except for a unique cohort of people that are all having 0. There's a bunch of zeros that are dragging the average down. Among people who have reproduced, the birth rates are actually very healthy. It's just we now have an extra group of people who aren't reproducing. And they started interviewing people in this documentary. How come you haven't reproduced? Is it because you don't want kids? Almost all of them say no. They actually do want kids. They just haven't found the right partner. A lot of them were women who say that they're now in their 40s and the time is up and they just couldn't find a boyfriend. A lot of them are guys who are working very hard and they say that they couldn't find a girlfriend. So the problem with birth rates right now seems to be a matching error. People aren't pairing up. It's not that they don't want to. It's not like they're being psyoped not to have kids or anything like that. They still want to have kids. They still want to be in relationships. They still want all the things that humans have always wanted, despite some crazy Malthusian leftists trying to psyop entire generations of people into not wanting those things. Those desires are still there. The issue right now is that people aren't finding each other. That seems to be the core of the problem right now.
Yep, and this is in part, I believe, due to the animification of society, because you can look at Japan and you see this exact thing. Like every year, there's news articles going, Japan's demographic hit the lowest birth rate ever since last year, and so on. And it's the exact same thing where people say, like, they get asked, why don't you go get married? It's like, well, I don't earn enough money to get married, or I haven't found anyone to get married with, or I'm too old, etc., etc. And it's very clear that we are, as a society, failing to, as you say, matchmake in an adequate way, and also to get people to have adequate expectations for what that relationship is going to be, because there is also a lot of people who expect the fairy tale marriage, the fairy tale relationship. Mm-hmm. You'll fall in love and you'll be immensely in love for all eternity, etc.
Hey, Kibbs.
Oh God.
You just raided.
Well, at least we have one homosexual here that can tell us about the gay part of it.
Oh God, don't make me laugh.
Oh God, this was a sidetrack and a half.
It's a good sidetrack, though.
It's
a good sidetrack.
It's a good sidetrack.
There's
the Japanese not having children is a wonderful sidetrack.
Go back like 2 sentences. I had an idea, then I lost it.
Unfortunate for you.
Oh, okay.
Adherent of political... Oh, that was the one that kicked it all off. Thank you very much. Unironically, thank you. It's good to have like a thing to go off on.
I had one more thing to say, and I can't bring it back. I think it's gone. I think I've lost the thought, unfortunately. Maybe it'll come back later. I did want to ask you about something else though, related to the Capcom ESG thing.
hmm
I know we've kind of left that behind, but if you don't mind, um, what do you think about the idea of ESG? The responsible investing or whatever it is.
I think it started out as a way for people with a little bit too much money to soothe their damaged consciousness for the awful things they did to get that money. And everyone had too much money. Money, like a few years ago, was very cheap. There were so many people with so much money. Investor money was so easy to get that companies didn't even need to sell shit anymore. They could literally get by on investment money. But now that we are out of our golden age, which we absolutely are, money's worth something again. Money, you have to earn cash. People aren't just going to give it to you anymore and expect nothing in return. This is why BuzzFeed and these companies are going down the drain, because they were never profitable. Like, there's no way you make a company with 100 employees profitable on like 80,000 views a video. Like, you don't stand a chance. For us, that would be great numbers, and hell, I'm getting half of that by myself. Employing 100 people on that, not a hope in
Yep.
hell.
Yeah. So here's something I've been thinking of. Okay. Um, and you know more about investment than I do, so you can probably answer some of these questions. When you invest in a company, you expect a return, obviously, right? So you buy 20% stock in a company. The idea is that the CEO and the board of that company has a legal responsibility to give you some sort of return on your investment. So they can't just tank the company and take the money and run. You know, you have to manage the company in a certain way so that you get your return, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's say that you own a company, all right, but you have a very diverse portfolio. So you own stock in, say, 10 different companies. And because those companies are kind of at, let's say they're at cross purposes, if one company did not so well, it would actually it would actually drive up the success of your 9 other companies. So you'd actually be incentivized to have one of your investments tank to improve the other 9. Is that a thing?
Very, very, very rarely. If you were dealing with a finite resource, for example, you could be in a position where increasing the value of that finite resource by tanking the people producing them could be good. There's also the idea of currency speculation, of course, where you would actually like to tank a currency to purchase it up and then wait for it to normalize again. This was how Soros made a lot of his money, for example.
Right. So like, let's say that you owned stock in what was an industry that was very heavily affected by COVID restrictions, like restaurants, airlines, those type of things, right? You own stock in those companies, but you also own stock in companies that created, say, medical supplies, and they saw a boom during COVID, right? So
Mhm.
you actually might want to see one of those markets be on the downturn because it meant that your other markets would be on the upswing, something like that. Where basically, because you're so diversified, you actually become incentivized to have some of your investments fail.
Potentially, but we are then talking about exponential returns. Like, you are going to have to receive a lot more from the company profiting to make up for the losses from the other company. Because if both companies were to just run normal, you'd have two profits, basically.
Right,
So,
right.
so to tank one for the benefit of the other, it is going to have to be a very large benefit. Now, COVID, of course, was a very large benefit for many.
So in terms of ESG, like ESG sounds like something that it would be a cost, right? Like if you're going to implement some sort of environmental regulation, that's going to cost you a little bit more. If you're going to implement some sort of standard regarding like LGBTQ nonsense, that's going to cost you, whether it's donations or regulations, whatever, right? The ESG, the point of it is that it's not the most efficient way to do business, but it's socially responsible. That's what the S stands for in ESG. Um, so if that's the case, it seems like given a long enough time frame, not only would non-ESG companies outcompete ESG companies, it would also be the case that you would want to invest in both ESG and non-ESG companies, because when they compete, you would experience returns on your non-ESG investments.
Well, the basic idea of it is, again, like, they are investments now to future-proof the company, because they believe, well, I don't know if they believe, but their argument is that if you do this now, you will be better off in the long term. They will say that a diverse team will be automatically better than a non-diverse team. You'll be better fit to deal with climate change when that eventually starts happening, etc., and stuff like that. That is the argument.
I wonder how much truth there is to that. It's probably partially true. Like, if we're talking, let's say, environmental stuff, and your business relies on the environment, let's say, not, tanking and turning into Fallout in the next few years, there's probably some truth to that. However, when it comes to, let's just say, diversity stuff, where you're just doing diversity hires, I can't see that possibly be working out in the long run.
Well, again, it's a lot, like I said too, people with bad conscience, because a lot of it is also the moral aspect. Like, do this because it's good. And then they've added on the marketing justification as almost an afterthought, going like, oh, this will totally be good. And
Well, sure, but I guess what I'm saying though is that the moral part of it will end up being weight. And if you're competing with a company that's not making those, that's not taking that same morality, their enemies might be on an edge, because these people are taking a moral stance. Moral stances cost you.
yes,
The competition that doesn't might be able to get ahead.
yes, it does. But most of the companies who do this are already in such leading positions that the competition is barely even there, and it's going to take them a very long time to build up, because we've arrived at a point now where companies are very powerful. Like, there is not going to be any entertainment entity that can compete with Disney for a very long time. It is going to take them decades to build up to the point where they could even be mentioned in the same breath as Disney.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you're becoming the communist now, Arch.
Well, unironically, we have failed in regulating companies. Like, Disney should never have been allowed to grow to the size it has, where it owns like a dozen different movie studios. Like, Disney should never have been allowed to buy Marvel, for example.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And the thing is, we do have rules against that. It's just that we've never applied them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you allow a company to just continue to grow and grow and grow, you will eventually just end up with one company.
I don't know if Taftad is watching or if she just sent me this randomly, but it's kind of related, actually. Here, let me give this to you. This is a study, but the TLDR of the study is that you have, the socialist-like worker co-ops, right, where all the workers co-own the business rather than having an owner and an owning class and a working class. It turns out that worker co-ops tend to pay their workers 14% less than comparable capitalist companies. That's the TLDR of the study. Now, the issue, I think, ultimately comes down to whether or not that's a good thing, right? Because we do also know that worker co-ops tend to fire people less often. If there's a problem in the market and the company is kind of facing some bad times ahead, a capitalist firm might just lay people off, while a socialist firm is much more likely to cut everyone's wages to try to keep as many people on as possible. So I that kind of relates to this conversation, in that in terms of just your basic competitiveness, ESG probably has its pros and cons, right? Where you have costs to doing certain things, but they might come with certain benefits that make you more competitive in a different way. And I think this is kind of a comparable idea, where it's like, well, you could fire people to keep the business afloat, or you could cut everyone's pay to keep the business afloat. And there's pros and cons to both approaches. It's not like one is, ideologically always better than the other.
Well, no solution is always better than the other. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Also, Daftaj, Dev told you I hate you. I don't. Bad Dev.
I didn't say that.
He
I didn't
laughs
say
because
that.
he knows it is true.
That conversation was so long ago, I don't even remember what was
Yeah,
going on.
it's because I told you. I was right.
um, there was
Dev,
something else.
shut up,
Oh,
bad Dev.
I've remembered it. I finally remembered it. Okay, listen. I just called you a communist for going anti-corpo. Now it's time for me to become a communist for a minute, okay?
For a
If you don't mind,
minute, you're
for
gonna
a
return
minute,
to your natural state.
you can return. Um, you know the TLDR, the labor theory of value.
I'm awaiting you to reemerge with your equilibrium.
Yeah. Do you know you know how labor theory of value works? You know the basic idea.
I know the Heinleinian version of it.
What was that?
No matter how much labor you choose to add to a mud pie, it will remain a mud pie.
That's a very good criticism of it. Yeah. Um, the steel man of the labor theory of value is basically that every good costs tools plus materials plus labor. Now that doesn't account for demand, obviously, which is the core problem of it, right? It doesn't account for demand. Um, but if you can calculate out like, oh, so this good costs X amount of tools because tools break down and have to be regained. It costs labor. So how much do you pay a person to do it? And then it costs materials. How much the materials cost to get a hold of. That gives you the price of the object. And if for some reason that price is higher than it should be based on that calculation, that means that the dirty owners, the CEOs, the capitalist class, the shareholders are scraping excess profit off of the backs of the workers because the people who believe in the labor theory of value believe that tools and materials, their prices are static. They aren't obviously, but they're static, and therefore all excess value, all surplus value, has to be extracted from labor. Um, it's kind of retarded. There's probably some uses for that, for viewing things in that way sometimes, but it's mostly retarded. However, in my reading of socialist nonsense, I've discovered that um, socialists believe that the reason that we have plummeting birth rates right now, because we were talking about birth rates earlier, Arch, and not reproducing in Japan and all that. The reason socialists believe that the reason that there are plummeting birth rates is because people, the creation of people, can also be judged by the labor theory of value. So, tools, materials, and labor. And if that equation leads to it being more expensive to make new people because people are a commodity in the socialist sense. If that equation leads for it to being more expensive to create new people, then people will not create new people. Um, as ghastly as that sounds, there might be some logic to it because it does map on to the fact, Peter Zeihan has famously stated that back in the day, having children meant free labor. Now it's a luxury because they are a cost, not they're an economic cost. They're not free labor anymore. So that's why we have less kids now. And it's kind of scary to think that if you do economically, how many people in your chat have said, I don't have kids because I can't afford it? That's a pretty common sentiment I've seen. I've seen some say I can't find a girlfriend. Fair enough. How many of them have said I can't afford it? How many people, in the documentary I watched, they all said I can't afford it, right? I think you could probably do some sort of economic calculation to discover why we're not having as many kids as we used to. And it's probably because um, there's probably something like, and now, if you actually are going down the socialist road, if you believe what they say, they're going to rope in automation into it, right? Because if the price of creating a new person is too high and their worth is too low because of automation, now you have two forces pushing on the equation, right? This is one of those things where, like, I don't like socialists. I'm not a socialist, Arch, but the analysis
Sure.
probably has there's probably a diamond in the rough there, I think. Something that should be considered a little bit.
Right. My counterpoint is one, reintroduce child slavery, and two, children are only as expensive as you make them. They can live off dog food just fine.
Arch's solution. It's the pure capitalist solution. Let them eat dog food.
Listen, that dog food is far more expensive than the stale bread they could be eating. But I get
Oh,
I get the idea, but I will also countermand that poor people tend to have actually more children, if anything. It is the socially responsible people that look at the expense of a child, and then they think of all of the other expenditures. They think, how am I going to get him the best clothing? How am I going to get him football practice at school? How am I going to pay for his college education? How am I going to get him well enough ahead in life to the point where he can earn $500,000 to get a wife? Like, when you really start counting that up, the expenses start to rise rather quickly. But if you're a poor person and you're like, damn condoms are squeezing my penis, you're not really thinking that far ahead. So if anything, I'd say
pay for my
IQ
kids.
might have more to do with it than economy.
IQ, possibly, yeah. Well, then it seems like this calculation only works in the people that we actually want to be reproducing.
Yeah, unfortunately, the people we would like to reproduce are the least likely to reproduce in many cases.
God damn it! There's Boog in the chat saying I'm not a socialist, but Arch, you changed my goddamn image back right now.
Change? I know what you mean, Dev. It's what it's always been.
Hold on, I need to go. I need to go to the washroom. I'll be back in a bit.
All right, you do that. I'll go Google the Soviet national anthem in the meantime. Oh god, it's copyrighted, isn't it? I mean, a non-copyright version. There we go. So, chat, how are you feeling about Dev's ideas that we shouldn't have children because they're too expensive? How do you feel about the idea that children are just a waste of society in general, and that we should send them into the mines, preferably with pickaxe and coal basket in hand? Personally, for once, I agree with Dev. Except in the coal mines, we should all send them to work at McDonald's. I want my hamburgers to be flipped by little boys. Now, they will need minimum education, and those who die operating the frying machine for the French fries, well, they will merely add flavor as their little fat mixes with all of the other frying ingredients. Furthermore, I believe we should explore whether or not we should feed children actual food, or whether or not sawdust bread is indeed sufficient substitute. Right. And there we have the Devian view of the future. Alright, let's do a couple more super chats. Oh, Duello says Battle Network was GBA and Ashley was in 20 both. Alright. Wilson, love the mod that makes Leon a wolf and shirtless. Oh, a bit of a double furry trouble strike there. Good. McWild, thanks for Ashley Arch. Hi, Dev. V was kicked. V was temporarily replaced. Because I did do like 2 streams with Dev talking about an idiot talking with Tim Pool for like 8 hours. So, you owed me. Vulture1066 says, how much for Arch Doom 3 stream? Doom 3, like, I don't even think that would be fun to watch because the game was so unbelievably dark you wouldn't even see anything. Oh yeah, horror, oh god, horror games, Jesus Christ. I'm probably putting all of that at like a raid sponsorship of $1,000, and then, but I will consider whether or not I'll do it before you need to donate anything. If anything, we might do some stretch goal thingies where I'll agree to a horror style game afterwards, maybe a vote of popularity or something. But like Doom, it would just be blackness for most of you. Like, that game was dark. Charlie says non-straight Atracus, also known as Dev. Non-straightus Atracticus, also known as Dev. Chester. Dev has admitted to being a bit of a homophile, after all. Game Goblin says the new Zelda is great. Strong recommend. Dev is right. Game Goblin makes himself a tremendous quantity of enemies in the chat. McWild11 says, Dev, you are allowed to like Zelda, $70 DLC, but don't dead name it. It transitioned to DLC. There you go. Dryfee says the slope keeps slipping. Oh no, I absolutely agree. Like the slippery slope is not a fallacy because we find ourselves at the bottom of a very long slope. So clearly, at some point, we must have started to slip. Shadowfox2300, excuse me, says, not going to lie, Tears is looking more like an expansion pack. They just shouldn't have made it $70. I haven't played it. I'm not a Zelda cuck. But Dev has. Dev has done a series on it if you're interested in watching it. So John says, boyfriend, Dev, you have a boyfriend. Well, there you go. Like, if it's easier to find a good boyfriend, maybe you should consider just swinging the other way. Dryfeet says, I don't understand or know much about the Japanese or Japan, though hostess clubs and geishas were brothels and prostitutes, no? Well, geishas were prostitutes, though the tradition of like just sitting or surrounded by women, they were more than prostitutes, and that they were also entertainers. Now, you were supposed to bang them as well, or at the very least you were supposed to have the option to do so, but they were also supposed to provide a wider array of services, like playing instruments and pouring you drinks, etc., and laughing at your shitty jokes. Or darnering your socks, as Isoroku Yamamoto figured out. Fun fact. Isoroku Yamamoto was such a frequent customer of a brothel in the port where he was stationed that the prostitutes called him by first name, which is very, like, intimate in Japan, and would even darner his socks because he spends most of his time at the whorehouse. Joseph Sepp says, I recommend the Destroy All Humans remake. It good. I think Kyle played that one. Boog says VTubers and Prawn aren't making men leave real women. Real women are making men leave real women. Yes, but it's also in by comparison, because you will look at the real woman and you will go, okay, well, this pretty lady spat on me, called me a loser, and tossed a drink in my face. A VTuber hasn't done that yet. And so by comparison... It's also just because, again, VTubers are idols. They are literally paid to be the perfect woman. And as a form of entertainment, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But there are certainly a subset of males who fall for the social contract. The parasocial relationship of that all. And ethos, of course, like Kyle, for example, prey specifically on that parasocial relationship to earn money, which, in the case of ethos, selling things like sex, which is something that males are literally biologically programmed to want, I do consider that rather predatory.
I'm back, Arch.
Welcome back. Would you...
You said you had... Eh?
Would you like to say something again?
You said you had one more topic?
Oh. Yes, let's.
I mean, I was listening while I was in the toilet the whole time, but like, I don't really have much to say. You traitors!
Traitors, my ass. Right, let's do the final topic then, and then we'll wrap up the rest of the super chats after that. The BattleTech thing, because I promised I'd talk about BattleTech.
I unfortunately know very little about BattleTech.
I would imagine. So this is our BattleTech. It used to be the biggest and the only BattleTech fan forum. And it had a simple rule, which was no politics after 1988, basically. So no current year nonsense whatsoever. And everyone was welcome. They didn't have any rules beyond that. It was just simply just, you don't talk politics on the BattleTech Reddit. Then, people started posting a LGBTQ blah 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 anthology, apparently, of various short stories. This was officially endorsed by Catalyst Games Labs, the creators of BattleTech. So originally, they allowed the anthology to stay up. Then it came to their knowledge that it was by Catalyst Games Labs, which means that it is then a political thing. Because it is the company saying, oh, hey, Pride Month, here's an anthology focusing exclusively on LGBT, blah, 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 blah. And so, okay, well, now it is political, and now it is going to cause political discussion. Because it is very clearly, you don't release this in Pride Month without having an agenda behind it. It's not just like, whoopsie, we just elected to release it now, obviously. And so they yeeted the post. This then coincided with Catalyst creating their own official BattleTech Reddit, which of course has the rule BattleTech is for everybody. That means left wing. Your religion, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual preference are all protected pronouns. You may not make jokes, for example, and you may not make jokes, but swapping out the racist part with Capellans or any BattleTech thing. So essentially, it is simply saying, we are a left-wing site. We will moderate ourselves as a left-wing site.
Right. Let me see here. Hi, everyone. This is Rem Alternus, the Community and Marketing Director from Catalyst Game Labs. I've been working with a small team of members both within and out of CGL to talk about our plan for community building. We have a mission we defined on day one to build safe and respectful communities for BattleTech, Shadowrun, Leviathans, and board gaming. Have you heard of the concepts safe edgy and safe horny?
No.
Okay. This is something floating around on Twitter. All you have to do is go to Twitter, do a search for safe edgy or safe horny in brackets so you get the full phrase. And you'll probably find some posts. The idea is, let's do safe horny first. You noticed how there are a lot of leftists who are, let's say, very they're very simpy. You know, they're very like they have no problem flirting with people online. If if an e-thought posts, a risque picture, they put in I'm respectfully looking. They put in the the emojis of like the two fingers poking together. You know what I mean, right, Arch? That sort of thing. That's safe horny. That is an acceptable way to show that you are sexually attracted. Now, there are unacceptable ways to show that you're sexually attracted, and that's what non-leftists do, right? So there's this idea developing that you can have safe horny and unsafe horny, and that there's actually a strict line between them. And safe edgy is the same thing. This applies to Vampire the Masquerade. Very clearly, they've gone safe edgy, where it has all the look, all the trappings of being very edgy, but it's actually quite safe once you look at it, because it's all about being progressive and rounded corners, and everyone's included.
Yes.
But it's all like punk and anarchic, but it doesn't actually have any of the bite that like the old anarchy scenes used to have, 40 or 50 years ago. There's a lot of stuff like that where they want to have the appearance of being on the edge, but not actually be edgy. So you can see this. I guarantee you, like Call of Cthulhu qualifies, Vampire qualifies. You know more about it than me. Warhammer probably qualifies. So there's this idea that you have properties with very edgy visuals, very edgy storytelling that they want and that are popular for their edge. And the creators still want to remain popular, so they want to retain some of that edge, but also they've wrapped the edginess in this progressive wrapping paper where it's like, okay, well, you can be edgy, but only to a point. Like there are some like this is, oh man, do you remember? It was an X-Men movie that came out 5 or 6 years ago, where there's a villain who wanted to destroy the world, but because the villain choked out a female character, Twitter got angry, and it's like, okay, so you're cool if they want to destroy the world, but they can't hurt women. It's that sort of thing. where even for a villain, there's certain things that the progressives won't let you do. So that's the concept of safe edgy, and this is like something that I've newly discovered in the past couple of days, and I want to look more into it and maybe do a video on it because it's kind of an interesting idea. But this sounds like a piece of that, the idea of safe edgy, where BattleTech I don't know anything about it. Looks like a game about robots fighting each other in a futuristic war, or like mech suits or something. The war is hell storyline's probably there, but you can't be a misogynist or you can't be a homophobe. It sounds ridiculous, right? But that's what safe edgy is. Yes.
And that is sort of what it is, and it's also full embrace of left-wing values. As the official BattleTech Reddit then went on to, well, embrace it full on. So it's now full of mechs painted in LGBT colors, in the trans flag colors, in all kinds of stuff, because it has now been conquered, and this is the sign of conquest. This is them displaying their allegiance at this point.
Yes, absolutely. So someone in your chat said humor, edginess, and kink by committee. That's pretty much what it is, yeah. Which is so ridiculous, The whole point of these things is to be somewhat offensive, right? It's to be something that not everyone will like. It's not to everyone's taste, That's what a kink is, That's what being edgy is. But you can't take that and make it and universalize it. It's just not going to work. But that's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do, which is why it just seems so ridiculous,
Yes. Then the person who created the fan BattleTech Reddit back in the day, who had never really he wasn't moderating it, he wasn't running it, he was just the one who happened to create it, and so he had access to the admin password. So he went back in, yeeted all of the admins who had simply been enforcing the rules as written, and replaced them all with leftists. And now that place too is, of course, full of ideological icons. It is full of pride flags, it is full of pride mechs, etc. Because again, that is what it is. It is a conquest of the space. It is them simply going, now, this is ours. We will now display our flags proudly. And of course, the rule has now been changed from no politics to BattleTech is for everybody, don't make edgy jokes.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. So this is the thing. BattleTech is not for everybody. And I'm speaking as somebody who BattleTech isn't for, all right? It's for fans of BattleTech. That's the point. They are a specific group of people with specific tastes, just like every other fandom, Like, here's the thing. Nintendo games, I'm a Nintendo cuck. Nintendo games have a very wide appeal, but they're still not for everyone, You have to be a fan of Zelda, or you have to become a fan of Zelda if you play it. Like, tastes aren't universal. You can't have everyone like something unless it's like fucking water. The most basic thing you need to survive. There you go. That's what universal is. It's water.
Yep. And of course, to further exemplify the ideological conquest and how this is not about being nice. This is not about protecting everybody. This is not about being welcoming. They, of course, state the same rule as everybody else who does this. BattleTech is for everybody. Yes, that means that these people, alt-right, Nazis, fascists, blah, 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 and we know what these words mean today, are not welcome. So it's literally, it's for everybody, except the people who are on the opposite side of the political spectrum from us. Because that is what it means. And I am sure, to steal man, the creator's position, he is probably a brainlet. And that is the most positive thing I can say about it. He probably has no understanding of the politics behind this. He has no idea what leftism is, and he has no idea what right-wingism is. He just goes like... Somebody sent him a message. I bet you. Somebody sent him a message going, I'm being persecuted because I'm trans. Please help. And he's like, oh my God, they're persecuting you? Yes. And he deleted all of them because they were being mean to the people. And now he's back with... literally the rote, step by step, this is how we do, this is our rules, even if they are self-contradictory bullshit.
Yep. You can kind of tell that it's very cookie cutter because the alt-right doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
If anyone has been watching, the online rightist space, there's no more alt-righters,
No, the alt-right does not exist.
Yeah, you have like libertarians, and you have the dissident right, the academic agent types. You have the old guard neocons with the alt right, like the Richard Spencer marching in Charlottesville guys. Those guys don't exist anymore. That's not a coherent, unified group anymore.
No. So again, like the rule set is like 2 or 3 years out of date. And the Nazis, hell, the Nazis exist to a smaller degree than the alt-right does. Like hell, the fascists are probably the most populous of these three groups, the unironic fascists.
So one thing that I've noticed is that when the left wing says fascist or Nazi, what they mean is a right wing person who has been elected to some position of power in a democracy, who is using that position of power to implement right wing policies, the same way that a left wing position who is elected would implement left wing policies, rather than simply being a bench warmer for till the next election comes around. That's what a fascist means to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who is right wing, who gains political power and uses it. That's what a fascist is. Because they're so used to right wingers being people who gain political power and don't do anything, right? Because I know you might, I don't know how much you like Trump, Arch, but he didn't really do much. For like 90% of his administration, he just kind of warmed the seat. He passed like one piece of legislation, the First Step Act. He just kind of hung around, right? If you look at guys before him, like more so in the UK and Canada than in the US, but you have a lot of people who just kind of sit around. They're right wing. They don't do anything with the position of power they have. And then when the next they get voted out, a left wing person comes into the position. They start doing left wing policies. They get voted out. A right wing person comes into the position. They just kind of hang around. They don't do very much. They don't repeal anything. They don't move forward, but they don't move back in terms of the leftist frame of things. So there's like a ratcheting effect. You've heard this before a lot. There's a ratcheting effect where when a right winger's in power, nothing happens. When a left winger's in power, things move left.
Yes.
So if you're a right winger who actually moves things right and actually does the things that you got elected on, that clearly the people want because you got elected to do it, that's when you become a fascist.
Yes.
And I mean, yeah, there's probably like a drop of truth to that, because you could have a right winger who is a fascist, who does fascist things with the office. Fair enough. But for the most part, you're just doing conservative things. You're doing what conservatives want you to do. And conservative is not the same thing as fascist. So yeah, I think that's what it is that they are so used to left wingers being radicals and right wingers being ineffective that the minute they see an effective right winger, they're a fascist, whether or not they're actually a fascist.
Yes. It's also the primary distinction between a left wing calling you Nazi and a fascist is whether or not they want to pretend to be intellectual. If they think they know what they're talking about, they'll call you a fascist. If they don't, they'll use Nazi.
Yes, exactly. Because, well, here's the thing. Also, this is more of an American view. The idea of a neo-Nazi, you kind of think of a like a low-educated, low IQ, like skinhead redneck, right? He has his head shaved. He has like swastika tattoos all over himself. Probably failed out of high school. Does a lot of petty crime. There's your image of what a Nazi is in America. But
Yep.
a fascist is completely different in the United States. So they call you something different. Yeah. The fascist is like the good-looking guy in a suit who's kind of a smooth talker, and he's a capitalist, even though most fascists aren't capitalists. But nonetheless, he's a capitalist, and he's subverting the process, which is fucking hilarious considering how often leftists subvert the process.
Yep. And of course, the thing is, because now, previously on the BattleTech forum, they did defend, to give the left-wing steelman position, they defended paint jobs with apparently swastikas on them, which they called clean Wehrmacht or Wehrmacht-inspired. Now, that might just be World War II paint schemes, because usually when the people on the left tell me something's a swastika, I gotta double check, but let's assume it was just painted bright red with a white circle and a good old-fashioned Virgin windmill on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would still argue that does not violate the no politics rule, because that is far more historical, and because there literally aren't any Nazi parties. Like, there does not exist an American Nazi party. There does not exist a British Nazi party. There does not exist a Norwegian Nazi party. In fact, in most countries, they are literally outlawed. Whereas when you may...
Like, I mean, are there really any Nazi, like National Socialist parties left? The last one that I think maybe Bashar al-Assad's party is considered officially a National Socialist one. I know Saddam Hussein's was, but I mean they're gone, right? There's not that many left. Like overt Nazis. I think they're just gone.
In the West, I think they are actually extinct.
Yeah.
Like, the closest we get is what you could refer to as ultra-nationalist, but they tend to be less Nazi and more extreme isolationist these days.
Yep. Yeah, this is now getting into like fascist political theory, right?
Yes.
Because you have like some stripes of fascists that were expansionists, and you can't be an isolationist and an expansionist at the same time,
No.
right? But then there are some fascists who were very isolationist, you know. So it really depends on what type you're talking about.
Yes. And that's where it gets complicated, and where the left long since has left the conversation. It's like, Nazi, right wing. Simple.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like they want you to accept so many like tiny, minute differences between, you know, social democrats and democratic socialists and libertarian socialists and anarcho-socialists and anarcho-communists and state communists, and then you have like anarcho-syndicalists, then you have like anarcho-primitivists and all this shit. You have the egoists, you know, all these different groups, and they do all have legitimate differences like in their political philosophy. If you read all their nonsense, there's differences, but they expect you to be like, no, we're not the same as them. You can't just call it, and like, but when it comes to anything that's not them, it's just fascist.
Yep.
It's all just the same fucking bullshit.
And of
It's
course,
like, no, they're all different too.
that is part of the tactic. And because, again, we know about these things. The chat knows about these things, so we can spot them. But to a normie retard who has been zero involved in this, he gets a message from some person who's like, oh, I'm being attacked. And then he goes like, oh my god, I'll protect you. Because they're weak, and they're playing to that. And then the monthly thereafter, now the entire forum is filled with literally the flags of the opposing party. Like, I view the trans flag as direct equivalent to the Nazi flag at this point.
It's not that they're weak, it's that they're compassionate, you know? Like, most normies don't know what a trans person is.
Yes.
They do know that it's like, oh, it's like a guy that like looks like a girl sometimes, and they probably have gay sex, but they're probably fine people, like most, you know, gay people are, but they just kind of look a little bit strange. But that's okay, because, you know, we accept people who look strange in a liberal society. So when like a trans person comes up and says, I'm being attacked for being trans, that sounds a lot like I'm being attacked for being gay, which is pretty unacceptable, right? So when you hear that, and let's say that you're not politically plugged in, but you are compassionate, you are likely to say, well, that's no good. You know, we shouldn't be attacking people for things like this. So that's when they probably step in and like change the rules, right? So they're playing off their compassion, but they don't actually know what's going on.
And at that point, in your mind, you have a victim and you have an aggressor. And then the victim, whatever they tell you, will be gospel. Oh, no, it's the alt-right. It's Nazis and fascists. And again, the normie is like, oh my god, Nazis and fascists? Well, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, because they, you know, they have this idea of Nazi as the Saturday morning cartoon villain that they grew up with hating.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, for good reason, obviously, but nonetheless, it's not what the reality is in this situation.
Yes, as they're told this, they are literally imagining Triumph of the Will playing out in their minds, the Hell March from Red Alert's playing, you know, everything is full on.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, like you can definitely get reasonable people to do things like this, right?
Yes.
To just as long as you phrase it correctly, you don't even have to lie to them. You can just tell the story in a certain way that is still true. But yeah, like this again, this is something that I went over with Adam and Sitch. We're going over Moldbugs, Mencius Moldbugs writing, on their show. I've been doing like a read along with various chapters of a book he wrote, and one of the things Moldbug correctly pointed out is that if you wanted to turn someone into an actual Nazi, an unironic Nazi, all you have to do is compile a list of the true crimes, without lying, the true crimes committed by every single Jewish person. and just present that neutrally, and you will make Nazis. Because Jewish people are people, they're humans, and therefore some of them commit crimes. And if you compile all that information in one place, all it takes is reading it out to them, and you'll have a few Nazis.
Yep.
That's how people work, you know? You just
And then at the
show
end,
them.
you just hand them a copy of that book written by a certain Jew before World War II saying the solution to the German question.
Or the Jewish question. But yeah. So the thing
no,
is
not
like,
the Jewish question. Oh God, have you not seen this book, Dev?
I thought you were talking about Marx's On the Jewish Question.
No, a while before World War II, this was used extensively in German propaganda. A Jewish writer wrote a book where he argued that to solve the German problem, they had to castrate the German population.
Oh, I've seen this. That's right. Yes. Someone
Yes.
sent me a copy of it years ago. It's somewhere in here.
Yes.
I've seen it. Yeah.
It reads exactly like you think it would read.
So his point was basically that, like, the best propaganda is the truth. Just selectively show the truth of whatever group you want to demonize doing terrible things, because there's going to be some part of them that do terrible things, obviously, and you can make anybody hate anybody. And that was his point. It's a pretty good point.
Mm-hmm. It's a read.
Actually, have you seen, like, there's a version where someone points out so many CEOs are from Ireland, and they do like the Jewish question thing, but now it's the Irish question because a bunch of CEOs are Irish. They're like, why are there so many Irishmen in top positions in the United States? Are they taking over? You can make anyone think anything with selective showing of the truth.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the BattleTech forum on Reddit has been fully conquered. It's gone. It is not a place for anyone who is not a left-winger anymore. And if you are not a left-winger, you will either shut your mouth and hope they don't notice, or you will be banned. That is literally your only option there anymore. And the official BattleTech forum is, of course, exactly the same, where again, they lay it out specifically in the rules. You get to put stuff there that is left-wing. You do not get to put anything up there that isn't left-wing. Nice and simple.
Is there, let's say, a non-paused BattleTech subreddit at anywhere?
I'm sure there are still some BattleTech subreddits that are no politics, but this was the big one, and it is now Yito Cheeto.
Yeah, this is something we've been seeing, I think, since Gamergate. Like, it was r/gaming became totally 100% on board with the leftist agenda, and then r/games, which is a different subreddit, r/games at a gaming, they weren't for a while, and then they got kind of bullied into it. Same thing, they found the old owner who had just been sitting on it for years now. At that point, didn't really matter. They convinced him to give it up or something, right? Like, a lot of these, like, a lot of the subversion of subreddits or websites or Facebook groups or whatever is because these are groups that were made 10, 15 years ago, and the person who technically owns them has kind of stepped out. Like, they've moved on with life. It's been a long time. They probably just, they got a real job, got a girlfriend or something. They're just not active anymore, right?
Yep.
And so, but then as soon as the current year catches up to them, they end up capitulating mainly out of ignorance.
Yes.
Not out of malice. They just don't know what's going on because they're not online anymore.
Yeah, which is why I say the original BattleTech owner didn't. I don't think he did this out of malice. I think he's simply just a midwit.
Yeah. And that's kind of what happened to you, because you used to be known as Arch Warhammer because you were a Warhammer guy, and that kind of you got the smack.
Yeah, then they decided to make an enemy out of me. Good luck with that.
How has that been going for them?
Well, I'm currently radicalizing about 800 people at a time, so good luck, I guess. All right, let's move on to some super chats since we are going long.
That's okay. I don't mind going long. It's fun. We can keep you away from barotrauma for hours on end.
No one, that's his name, says, greetings from Germany. It seems your humor is not the yellow of the egg if you find our no laughing matter. Anyway, been enjoying the stream so far. You find your humor is not the yellow of the egg. I'm confused.
Oh, actually, I should probably point out now then is that I think I'm gonna pass on barotrauma tonight because I have to go to the washroom again, and I don't want to be going to the washroom every 30 minutes on barotrauma.
Yep.
So,
Well, if you need to leave, just tell me I'll place to start playing the Soviet anthem again.
I mean, Stardust said that she just got back from her UK trip, so she's probably not going to be there. I know Lilith. Here, I'll spoil something for you guys. Lilith is going to Pride in California tonight to see if anything spicy is happening. So she's not going to be there. Maybe it's just kind of a wash this week. I'll be back though.
Maybe. Popatzot says, I'm late, so I'm having to watch it 2x speed. I assume Dev has gotten it in by now. Dev, I saw another one of those compilation videos of people that went bald too young. I feel bad complaining about mine. That's true. Going bald is a sad thing. Sad state of affairs. Edward Garding says, but don't you feel the VTubers feel fake? Well, yes, in that they are obviously fake. They tell you they're fake. It's their job to be fake. But is that so wrong? Like, a television show is fake. You know, a singer is fake. Everything is fake to some degree. Most of the porn you consume is fake, etc. So on, so on. Like, as long as it is worthwhile entertainment, I don't mind if it's fake. And so long as it's simply just like laugh and have fun watching a stupid girl play a video game, I don't see any damage with it at all. Ethot, however, well, again, specifically they are trying to get you money by preying on your sexuality, which I think is different again. Saipon Patriot says, people prefer the idea of things, I feel. Yeah. That's true, because your ideas can always be perfect, of course, whilst reality is very rarely perfect. Dean Domino25 says, Dev, while you're right about not looking online for tradwife, you're wrong about churches. They are completely possessed. If you want a tradwife, bring a passport, bro. It's the best chance. I agree. Actually, okay, so Norway, we import a lot of women from Thailand specifically. Like, it's ridiculous. Because if you want a quote-unquote tradwife today, odds are it's not a church, it's an airport you need to be visiting. As there are many countries, of course, that still value the traditional values far more than us. And, well, importing one might be your best bet if that's what you're looking for. Looking for a good, wholesome American Christian wife is, it might be more difficult than you think. But go looking for one in Argentina, I think you'll have better chances. Russ Williams says, women from Thailand, in quotation marks. Listen, sometimes the penis is a bonus. Alex Anderson says, tell us more about this personal experience, Art. Oh, that was about that. Let's just say that I was in a relationship at one point where she liked me a lot more than I liked her, and I didn't know how to get out of that without being mean, and it took me a bit too long, shall we say. Black 1917 says, Hail Archchrist, our Lord and Savior, and hi, Dev. Dev says hi on the toilet. Like, literally, I know he does. I know, Dev, you're laughing right now, and you're in pain right now. I know, you're shaking. It's like, oh, stop hurting me. I will hurt you, because I know your immediate reaction was like, hi, possums, or black, sorry. It's usually possums, though. And then, you know, he quivers in pain as his butthole stretches yet wider as fluid shoots forth from it like the Niagara Falls. It's tragic. And to be fair, food poisoning really does suck. Jesus. Oliver Nord says, another argument versus fertility, urbanization. At the farm, kids are free labor. Correct. Get as much as possible. In a condo, kids are noisy, smelly, expensive pieces of furniture. Adults aren't stupid, we make less. That's correct too, yeah. I mean, the thing is, kids are an inconvenience. Just straight up, obviously they are. You're going to have to watch out for them for a very long time before they can be trusted to not brain themselves on the stairs. But the joy of having them supposedly makes up for it. Sujan says, climate scientists have no successful predictions. That also is correct. I still remember the fact that we were all supposed to be underwater by now. California was supposed to be a sea shelf. We were rudely disappointed by that. Gary Thomas. Hi all, new here. Like your commentary, I met, I presume, a Japanese couple in their early 50s who had 12 kids. The oldest was 16 and the youngest was 4. There you go. And that's the thing too, like, yes, the odds of having children decreased drastically, at the time of like 30, 40, etc. That doesn't mean it's impossible, especially not with modern fertility techniques, etc. Plus, some Japanese people just like to bone each other. Mac111. ESG was introduced by a guy from the UN. It's harakiri by sound feel-good noises. Hard to argue against by design. Will end like the Holodomor in Ukraine. I mean, the conspiracy theory, and by conspiracy theory, I mean they promote this on their websites, the Great Resets will require the collapse of great deals of our economies to make people desperate enough to embrace the WEF design, so it's not a completely insane idea. Sandoom says people also had kids because bored and Squex is fun. That is true as well, and they hadn't yet figured out how to wrap their peepees in plastic.
Arch, did you say that you had a girlfriend with a penis at one point? Did I hear that right?
I said that sometimes a penis is a bonus.
And why would you think that?
Well, sometimes the penis is a bonus if you're into that. Personally, I like my women with vaginas, but I know that there are some weird people out there who prefer their women with penises.
So you weren't speaking from personal experience then?
No.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Local Raven says, when people are planning to have kids, they're planning them for most elite education expenses. Poor people don't have to. The kid will be poor. That's also true, yes.
Here, I should read this super chat before it scrolls away because it requires me to actually read it. Okay. Right. It's for 20 CZKs, whatever those are. Hello, Dev. Okay. Would you please read? Can you read that?
Nope.
It's Strick Persd Skriz Crick. What kind of language is that?
I'm presuming Czech. But yes, you're going to need some phonetics there, otherwise that literally just reads Strek Press Skrisser Krek.
Yeah, there's not a single fucking vowel in the whole thing.
It's very confusing. So, Dev, did you say hi when Black 917 said hi?
Only in my head.
Yes, I figured. Wayu Hatan says, the worst thing isn't the bouncer, the worst is her posting a picture of you to Twitter and saying you sexually harassed her. Well, yeah, no, that's the step up again. Because I'm not like, okay, I actually genuinely loved your video on that, the recording that emerged, like the high schools back in the day were so wholesome, where everybody just looked at the camera, and nobody was afraid of the camera. Because that's entirely true. It was a camera. It was a technological innovation. It was something cute and adorable. And you never for an instant thought that the person holding it had malicious intention. Like, that wouldn't even have occurred to you. But today, somebody's filming your ass. Oh, you get defensive real quick.
Yeah, exactly, right? I know, even for me, when so my family, for some reason, my mom wanted to document everything when I was growing up. So she bought like one of those late 1980s cameras, the big camcorders. So our family had one of those, and then as it started being used less and less because that's just how these things go. It kind of became my camera in the 2000s that I would goof around with at school. And people treated it the same way, I did like a drama class and I made like a little mockumentary using this ancient camera. And everyone thought it was a fun novelty to be recorded for once and not, having your life ruined.
Because it would never even have occurred to you that this could be used as ammunition to just ruin you entirely. Like, worst case scenario, you do something and like your class would have a bit of a giggle at it for a while and then it would disappear. Like, it would be gone. Whereas today, you do something stupid and it gets uploaded on the internet, like, it's there forever. And if it gets picked up by people, like, there are entire YouTube channels dedicated to just laughing at stupid clips on the internet. Dev.
Yes.
And, like, if that happens, if PewDiePie finds your video and goes, like, look at this idiot, like, you will forever be the person who was mocked by PewDiePie. That will never leave you.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things. Well, at the same time, though, I mean, I pointed this out in that same video, is that the Star Wars kid became a legend because he was one of the first ones to really go viral, to be mocked in that way. However, nowadays, that shit fades in a couple weeks. You know, like
Yeah,
who remembers the person? Yeah, like who remembers the person who got canceled 3 months ago? Pretty much no one. You know,
It's because we've grown accustomed to it now. It's just a thing that happens.
yeah, like who remembers that last summer Mizkif was accused of covering up a sexual assault, and there's actually some decent evidence that he might have done it. I mean, no one. Mizkif's still streaming. He still has, a huge viewer base. He's back leading OTK, hundreds of thousands of viewers. Didn't do anything to him. It barely slowed him down, He left the internet for a week. He just fucked off, didn't say anything. He came back, he kept streaming for a week. And a second week he got heckled, and then it was done, Like a lot of these dramas, they continue mainly if you yourself allow them to continue. I should know that personally.
If you feed into it, yes.
But like, this is why I do think that on some level you're only canceled if you let yourself be. You because
Yes.
eventually you will move past it.
Yes, that is true. Though there are also cancelling attempts on a completely different and much grander scale as well that can affect you more, a lot more. Like
Yeah,
losing your job.
I did that video of the lawyer who pulled that woman's wig off and then he got fired, right? And it's like, well, was that appropriate? Even like he did harass her, but was it appropriate? Like because he was fired from a law firm and not simply let go or like chose to resign or given the opportunity to resign, he might actually be like out of that field entirely, which is like that sucks.
Yep, because next time he applies for a job, they're going to call this old one and go like, so why did you fire him? Oh, transphobic hate crime. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's a weird line. There's like some jobs where you're pretty much immune to being canceled, and other jobs where you're just fucked.
Roy the Romulan says, the next time I meet a cutie at a bar and she later asks me, why are you doing this? I'll reply labor theory of value, woman. There you go. Labor theory of value. Like, I've judged that you are worth so much, woman, and there you go.
Listen, chat. Listen. Sometimes even the tools of your enemies have a limited use every once in a while.
That is true. Cancel culture, for example, is a very valuable tool against the left now, and one that will be wielded with great malice.
Oh God, yeah. Like I don't like it personally. I'm probably not going to. I'm not going to engage in it. I think myself, but I see it coming. Like as soon as the right can start getting leftists fired for being leftists, it's gonna be everywhere. It's gonna be a bloodbath.
Dev, I will masturbate to nothing but that for at least a week. Then I'll consider condemning it. Maybe.
Not to be fair, leftists are generally less productive than rightists. So a lot of them don't even hold jobs, so you can't fire them anyway.
That's true.
A lot of them hold useless
find
jobs.
A leftist with steady employment to cancel. Now, I think some of the first ones, like the companies, obviously, like Bud Light and Target, have already gotten their asses beat, and I know Target is panicking internally if they've lost something like 10% of their sales. I know Amazon is panicking internally. But one of the big first moments when we know that the hill has truly turned and we are heading back the other way is when somebody like Hassan Piker gets yeeted for something and he doesn't come back. Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be Hassan, because I think he's... I think he is closely enough related to the average rodent to see the switch, shall we say. But someone of his ilk, when you see one of them disappear, and this time they don't just simply call up the person at YouTube to get their channel back like they used to be able to, that is when we know that the boot is truly and firmly on the other foot.
So I don't think it'll play out quite that way. Let me give you my reasoning why. Okay. So I used to know people who work at Twitch. I don't have any connections there anymore. But they always described to me as that place basically being in a constant state of falling apart. There's tons of bloat. They're just hiring people with no fucking clue what they're supposed to be doing. Just like they're just hiring random diversity hires with like no they're so disorganized. They're all over the place. And there hasn't been any real technological innovations at Twitch in about 10 years. And basically, they don't have anybody there who can code on the level of their previous coders. So they've basically just been holding the site together as best as they can. They can't make anything new. They're just existing on whatever came before.
Yep.
And I know other streamers who still have friends at Twitch now. They say it's exactly like that, exactly the way that my friends told me it was at Twitch. However, Twitch is very ideologically captured. It is very leftist. So I think that Twitch will actually sink before it gets rid of someone like Hassan.
Maybe.
I think what will actually happen is you have Rumble is up and coming for streaming. Kick is up and coming for streaming really fast. And YouTube streaming is getting better by the year. So I think basically, like 5 years ago, Twitch was the undisputed champion of streaming. It was dominant. If you wanted to stream, you went to Twitch and that was it. Now it's not so certain. You know, you go to kick.com, you see people that have, 5,000 views, 7,000 views. That's small for Twitch, but it's huge for a site that just came up 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Rumble has been investing tons of money into try to getting their streaming platform into a good space. So basically, I think what'll happen is that Kick, the CEO of Kick, or sorry, one of the investors of Kick, has already said they will not take Hassan Piker if Hassan wants to move over to Kick, because they hate that leftist bullshit. So there's like, no, Hassan, you can't come. You can stay on Twitch where you belong. You can't come to Kick. So I think what'll happen actually is that it's not that Hassan will be banned from Twitch as the winds shift. It's that Twitch will fall apart as the winds shift, and that the new platforms that come up next will not be Hassan friendly, or leftist friendly in general.
Maybe. I do hope so. No one says, this is one of your best streams so far, therefore you shall receive bits in a computer we call money. Thank you very much, sir. See, Dev is so categorically wrong on most things, he earns a lot of super chats. I like it.
Oh, is that how it is?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I do owe you 2, right? Because you did the 2 Lance streams with me.
That's true. I did earn you a lot of money, too, especially when I talked about gun control in America.
Well, I can't do next weekend, but I could do the weekend after that if you want.
Maybe. Panda Ace says, my father worked long hours, low-paying jobs to support 3 kids and my mother. Dev is wrong about this. It isn't an issue of cost, but one of work ethics. There is an argument to be made there. There is also the ridiculous argument of, that you see constantly, I worked 3 jobs and I don't have enough to feed myself. What are you spending the money on?
You saw that clip from one of my TikTok Tuesdays, right? Of the woman who was stealing.
Oh,
She was working, 3
it's
jobs.
An ancient thing, isn't it? Like, my mom worked 3 jobs to raise me. It's like, if you're working 3 jobs, like, either each job is like 2 hours a day, and so at the end you're only actually working 1 job, or you are getting horrifically underpaid. Or you have a very expensive crack addiction.
Yeah, the clip that I posted was of a woman who looked like she's gone through about 30 years of drugs.
Yes.
She just looks at...
Meanwhile, if you are somebody who's actually working hard, low hours, low paying wages, etc., to support your family, well, you actually use that money to support your family. Like, the thing is, I genuinely do think that there are very, very few circumstances in modern society where you can't earn enough to live, especially with all of the various social safety nets. Like, you need to be doing bad to be unable to at least feed yourself. Dreyfus says,
yeah.
just saw the Geisha movie. That explains quite a bit. Geisha movie.
Didn't it win like movie of the year like 12 years ago or something?
I don't know.
There was a geisha movie. No, it was actually like it was one of the first instances of people getting canceled for what do they call it?
Oh,
When somebody of
yes, Memories of a
somebody
Geisha.
yeah, somebody of a different race plays a character that they shouldn't play by progressive standards. I think it's because the woman wasn't Japanese, she was Korean or something, and a bunch of progs got upset.
Korean, Japanese, what's the difference? McWalls11 says, Dev, you are still better fun than V. We love you. Oh, that's very kind.
I'm better fun than V. Isn't V a lot of fun? V's a good guy.
V doesn't know the difference between a clip and a magazine. Dev stays quiet strategically.
I'm trying to think about it. I mean, a clip isn't a clip just like it's basically, I don't know how to describe it. The bullets are like open and visible. When a magazine, they're actually in like a chamber.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it, I think.
And what is the differential between the two?
Well, certain types of guns will take certain types of clips or magazines. I do know, for example, that one of those famous Nazi guns, you had to feed the ammo in on a clip from the top. Meanwhile, most modern guns take magazines. Isn't that the case?
Well, the easiest differential is simply to say that a clip is something used to load bullets into a gun, whilst a magazine contains the bullets.
Right, yeah.
And then you put the magazine in the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver Nord says, you consider a video on propaganda of both sides of the Ukrainian-Russian war. You considered a video on propaganda of both sides of the Ukrainian war. After a year, there's more than enough quality material to do a few. Yeah, sure. You could, but it's a forever war at this point. There are channels doing literally daily updates on this that go like, oh, this'll be the one, this'll be the one. Nah. Like, I know what war looks like, and I know what a winning and a losing war looks like, and I know what a stalemate looks like. This is a stalemate.
I do think that if the Russians happen to eventually manage to conquer Ukraine, they're probably going to be in for like a 20-year quagmire of resistance.
Probably.
I can see that being the case. It's not going to work out well for them in any case.
Boog says, water is offensive. Why people doesn't season this water? This Wasser.
Oh my, did you see the compilation of black people and chicken, like washing their chicken with soap?
Yes, including the bleach, which I do hope is a joke.
You saw that? Was it my channel or someone else's channel?
I saw that one of yours.
Okay, yeah, I made a short out of it with like hilarious, with like funny music and just black people scrubbing chicken with bleach. My God.
Adherent of Lady Columbia says, as someone in BattleTech circles, most shrugged our shoulders as the community has a strong no politics mindset, since it's mostly older guys, but we didn't care about your paint jobs or that fan-made ontology. Well, that's the thing. You don't care, and that's fine, but now your fan side is taken away. Like, it is tragically not enough to no longer care. Live and let live does not work against the left. Because you can go, oh, well, I guess they took that over. And, oh, well, I guess they took that over. Because I was the exact same thing. It's like, okay, well, let those people over there do their things. Until I realized, if you just do that, eventually you won't have a thing. That is my view of it.
Yep, that's pretty much how it is. Like, because you end up getting people who won't do anything, and they'll just be neutral. Okay, people call me this, and I'm not this, but people who will be neutral, like as the world burns. You know, it's like, well, it doesn't concern me. It's like, well, eventually it does. You know.
Brian88 says the most successful lie the left ever told was that the Nazis aren't socialists. That is true as well. Speaking of, Dev, your daily reminder: you cannot have theocratic fascism.
Yes, you can. Arch.
Oh, you can't.
Yes, you can.
You can't.
There's several examples of very religious fascist societies.
No. The
Romanians did it, Arch.
No.
They were theocratic fascists. The Romanian Iron Guard.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Last time we talked about this, I told you about what killed the Fascist International, right? I told you that already?
Yeah, because they couldn't agree on anti-Semitism and stuff.
Yeah, on whether or not anti-Semitism should be important to fascism. That's funny.
Creed says, weaponized compassion is a favored tool of the tyrant. It makes tricking simple people easy. Yes, because the majority of people are good people. And so when they're told about something bad, they'll be, oh, well, I'm not for the bad thing. And then often they won't dig any deeper. Black Knight 17 says, there are no normies left in America, Arch, only the willfully ignorant. The left has made sure of it. I still do believe that there are some normies. They're getting rarer, definitely. But some still exist.
I think, well, man, I don't know about that because, like, what was the turnout for the last election? Like 60%?
Yeah,
that's 40% of politically unengaged people. That's a lot of people.
True.
Who just don't give a shit, right?
But I think politically unengaged and normie isn't necessarily the same thing anymore, as you've also got to reckon in a large portion in that politically unengaged who have just gone like, oh yeah, the world is over. I'm just going to hope it all burns down and hope I can survive in my bunker, etc.
Oh my god, one guy in your chat says, Dev clearly has no understanding of what fascism was. You want to bring this guy on? I'll debate him right now in my sickened state. I don't care. do not. Considering that, like, my biggest reading arc for the past year was specifically about fascism. No, not this time. You are just wrong, chatter.
Yeah, Dev is getting very good at becoming a socialist in this regard. Matthew Zvezek says, praises be to Arch. I just want to ask, is the Dominion series and the corresponding law series dead? I was really looking forward to it. It is in the pre-planning state. We had a couple of games versus Cossie and Fuzzy, but the thing is we need more people to play against us because we absolutely tronched them and it wasn't very interesting. It was a very, very one-sided affair.
Wait, what game is this?
Dominions.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Blood Bowl.
No, but that we will do a league of that first, probably, and then maybe we'll rope Dev into Dominions at some point.
Yeah, there's like a billion games going, it seems like right now. Everyone's playing everything.
Blood Bowl is currently going, and that will hopefully be wrapping up in the next month or so. Then we will start the big tournament, which is going to have, like, I think 16 people at this point.
Yeah, I still haven't joined yours yet. I still got to figure out what to do about that.
Blood Bowl is going to be a big boy thing. Matches Physical says, hello, Arch. Wolf, would you, I guess, play more time the tabletop game with somebody on Tabletop Sim? I think it would be a great stream content. Maybe, but that does require a lot of setup and pre-planning and stuff, so and I'll never say never, but I also will never say now. And Emperor Creatine for, I believe, the last one, unless I missed Streamlabs. Let me actually check Streamlabs, because I haven't been checking today.
A lot of my super chatters are in here right now. You guys should be giving money to me.
But maybe they like me better. Maybe I'm not as communist as you.
Oh, someone in your chat wants Vampire Season 2. So do I. You got to bring Vampire back, Arch. Come on.
As the wind continues to change.
You got to do it.
SM Scott Chegg says, been a while, but update on comics. Second round of concert for Catch Staff done. Once they're done, I'll be getting some promotional pieces done. What's the best fundraising site for startup cost for us guys? Want to avoid the woke sites. Honestly, not a lot. Your best bet is to go with the mainstream ones where the people are and then hope you don't get discovered. Honestly, that is probably your best bet. Also, I thought I'd turn on the goddamn Streamlabs notifications. I was supposed to have heard that, god damn it. Ever since I bought Streamlabs Premium, it feels like it's been less and less good at telling me when shit happens, which is rather infuriating.
So is Streamlabs YouTube chat still completely fucked where it like lags out and then loads in a bunch of messages all at once?
I don't know, but it's supposed to be putting this shit on screen. It's supposed to give me a noise to be like, hey, this happened.
Because it does it for me. I've seen it do it for Kibbs. I've seen it do it for Not So Erudite. I think I've seen it do it for you a couple times where basically like Streamlabs just stops updating any YouTube chat calls and then pins like 50 chats at once.
See, I'm trying to, yeah, no, it's completely dead. I'm trying to test the widget thingies now. Nothing's happening. So Streamlabs must have derped again. Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, Streamlabs, man, that's another company that feels like it's just barely hanging on because it has all this feature bloat. You can make merch with it. You can like make it has like its own streaming software now. All this shit that no one wanted. People just wanted a way to process payments and have it appear on the screen. That's all anyone wanted. And if you go into like the Streamlabs back end, there's like 50 different tabs for all this nonsense no one uses. It's like, what the fuck?
Yep.
Restream's doing the same thing. I don't know if you use Restream. You can like you basically Restream started to you can stream to Twitch and YouTube and all these different services at once, right? Just you stream to Restream, Restream splits it out to all your different services. Okay, $10 a month. Fine. But now they're adding like a bunch of extra shit to it. And I'm like, guys, how come every one of these services has to just become bloated with nonsense? Like, you get big for doing one thing. Just do it well. Just stick with that. You don't gotta offer 50 different fucking things.
It's because they want more money. They want to earn more. They want to get more. And I appreciate that. But the thing is, you keep breaking your other shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was sure, like, okay, if I got Streamlabs now it'll pop up. And I'm testing it right now, and it ain't fucking working. So, yeah, great. I also have been trying to... I bought premium Streamlabs to Restream. It doesn't work. Like, it will crash the YouTube stream every time. It's just awful. So I'm going to move over to Restream, probably.
Oh, I wondered. That makes sense now, because... So I mentioned before that, like, the YouTube stream chat messages they'll work for a bit, then they'll stop updating. And then in my stream, because I do YouTube and Twitch in the same unified chat room, so you see all the Twitch chats coming in right away. The YouTube stream stops. However, after a few minutes, all the missed chats start posting in, like all at the same time, and it just floods the chat. So what I'm wondering is,
Okay, right. I've fixed it. Now I had to go back in the back end and reset everything and re-enter everything, and now it looks like it works. Like piece of
That'll
shit.
last for about a half an hour, then it'll go back to normal. So
Yeah.
I've done that before too. So what I'm wondering if Streamlabs just loses its connection with YouTube accounts after 30 minutes because the chat stopped working, and as you say, the stream dies. So I wonder if it's like a connection issue.
God knows.
Then again, they've had this problem for a year, and everyone's been screaming at them on their forums to fix it, and no one's fixed it yet. So
because they're focusing on implementing yet further things. Yeah. Again, you're popular for doing one thing. Keep doing that thing.
Yeah. It was the same problem with Patreon, remember? Like they started they started doing like feature bloat. They had like merch and all this other stuff, and at the same time as they start like taking money and bloating up, they start pushing more leftist politics. That was back when Sargon got banned.
Yep.
Like, man, it was just ridiculous the way some of these things go sometimes.
Outrage Deer says, the left has been on a steady decline since Roe v. Wade was overturned. They will have moments where they regain ground and win elections, but they have been defeated in the long run, as people know. They can win against them and are now more actively resisting. I believe that is partially true, yeah. Like, the downfall has absolutely begun. Now we just need to survive the storm.
It's partially false, though, because I think the Republicans would have fared better in the 2022 midterms if they didn't overturn Roe v. Wade. Because that galvanized a bunch of random soccer moms and like wine ants who probably wouldn't have voted in 2022. That got them to the polls.
But it was also important to demonstrate that the right could still do something. I think it was an important moral victory, even if it was not a tactical victory. Black917 says, a contributing factor to low birth rates is because of how undisciplined many children are because parents don't want to parent as well as parentification. People see kids acting like goblins and decide not to have kids themselves. Yeah, partially. Like, when you see that child at the supermarket screaming like that, that's not a motivating factor, is it? But again, real parents can deal with that. Outrage Deer says, I think you skipped over my chat. I did. That's because I thought I was going to pop up and goddamn... Alright, it'll be fixed for next time, maybe. And finally, at the end, Emperor Cretin says, basically, Twitch has become the mechanics. Or the Mechanicus. Yep. They are riding a wave of ancient glory until their eventual demise and destruction.
Yep. I think Jordan Peterson, back when he wasn't insane, he described it as feasting on your father's corpse.
Yep, that is an apt descriptor. Right, we're finally at the end. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for your super generous super chats. Thank you for being with me here today, Dev, even despite you shitting yourself every 5 seconds. And you're right. Remember, not restream. Raid thing, right? And I will have a brief break, and then we'll head over to the woman. He screamed a lot at the Amnesia video game. He acted like what we would indeed refer to as a woman. Very feminine. Right, and we'll cue that up. Right. Thank you all very much for watching again, and hopefully we'll see you all again next week. Have a good day.
Goodbye.